Good afternoon, everybody. This is Rocken Larry Locken with Pleiadian Express Productions. I'm coming to you live from the Oregon coast in an undisclosed location for reasons of security, therefore insecurity. And today on the show, I have a lady by the name of Korinne Wilson, who is a Sirian contactee I had a chance to meet earlier today. And I just really felt a good vibe, and I thought it was really important to bring her on the show and to share our dialogue with everybody out there. So Korinne, welcome to the show. How are you, sweetie?
Hello, namaste, everyone out there now and into the future.
But all in the same now moment, yes. So, you know, we were talking earlier before the show, and I know that of course, you being a Sirian contactee, and there's certain differences. And why don't you go ahead and start, just if you could tell the audience a little bit about your contacts. And I know that you have a Sirian contactee guide that you deal with, and if you could just tell the audience a little bit about that and how that started, and the typical bullshit that we usually talk about, that would be great, and we can go from there.
Excellent. My language tends to be a bit different because I drank from a different stream, so to speak, as I was being taught. All the light languages, starseed language, is fairly new to me. So you'll see me speaking from a different perspective.
Cool.
How I first came across Sirius was through Hermes. And how I first came across Hermes was through a guided meditation guided by my Reiki master in 1995. And I've made a video about this on YouTube. Occult Priestess is my YouTube channel. How I met my spirit guide, Hermes. Yeah. And so it's just, I take you through the visual, exactly what I saw, you will see and experience. And it had not been until I was 30, several years later, 8, 9, quite a few years later, that I got in contact with Hermes in almost a bodily way. I had met a woman who channeled Yeshua or Jesus, and she taught me, she showed me how to embody more my spirit guide, Hermes. And that's how I see him, as a spiritual guide. He's been with me my entire life, guiding me, riddling me, teaching me like a father. And he once, at some point, he started, at 30, I went through a Kundalini awakening, a very shocking Shakti experience. And I've been through about 12 of those since.
Good
so
Lord.
Each one brings me closer to an understanding of the idea of the universe and my place in it. And Hermes tells me more recently, in the past few years, that he is from Sirius B. And during this time of the year when Sirius is rising, I have an open portal to a lot of knowledge. It's hard to stay grounded sometimes.
Does it seem to be like, does it seem to be like during this time of year that you're getting every year, like without fail, you're getting this kind of information? Does it seem to hit you hard then during this opening?
Yes, about the past 3 years I've been cognizant of it. I started what I thought channeling a goddess of Egypt. And it turns out it was a portal to a self of mine. I guess that's how we put it.
Okay, interesting.
And she happens to be Sirius and related with Isis.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, I mean, I really think this is interesting because, like we were talking about in the pre-interview, some of the Pleiadian channelers, and they're all good, the ones that are out there now, all of them. I love and respect them all, whether it's Wes and Ack, whether it's Meline Lafont, Marianne Rada, Julian Wells, and there's different ways of doing it. And some of us do it through astral traveling, some of us do it through pure channeling. I know Julian and I do it through more of a conscious kind of a contact. And so it's interesting how we all get our information. I think what I would ask you is, you mentioned 1995. Do you remember growing up when you first were conscious of the term Sirius in the star system, or because I never really thought of the Pleiadians or heard of that term until I was ready to a few years ago, and it came to my mind through a talk show I'd heard, and there was no rhyme or reason why I had never heard of it before, because, I have a photographic memory, and I at least, had heard Coast to Coast and all the UFO shows, and I was really in tune with everything, but I had never heard that name. Had you heard the term Sirius at a young age at all, or heard about the star system, or did it happen about the time you started to have these things happen?
The only time it would have come up in my youth is, wow, I forgot that. Oh, right.
Well, yeah.
I did a encyclopedia version of ISIS. You had to do your reports on somebody. Well, I did an encyclopedia version of where ISIS came from and who she was. And if it was, a really good encyclopedia, it would have mentioned Sirius. But I came across Sirius after I was called by ISIS. In the religion of Wicca, often you're called by a deity, a specific one. And after she called me, that is when I read the books of Murray Hope that speaks great volumes of Sirius. And also, of course, it's mentioned in the Egyptian Book of the Dead that is where we're from.
Isn't that ironic? Because it's like the same thing like with us. You don't really come into contact with it till you're meant to, but then you find out, well, all that information's out there. It was always available. And it's like, it's really strange how you don't run across it until you're meant to, don't you think?
Yeah, I actually had no idea that eventually I would learn I was from Sirius at some point in this fictitious thing we call time. But actually in a dimension, I am still there.
Yeah, and it's like now you realize and know that, right? But at the time, and it all makes sense when you look back on it now, when you remember, well, yeah, I thought that, that really resonates with me now. And it's like I started remembering all those things. And it shows you how angelic and not how loving it really is, because it's not something forced upon you. You don't come, it's not until you're ready that you start finding out this stuff,
Yeah, that's where I was going with it. This story slowly unfolded for me. Unlike, the jolts of the Kundalini Shakti energy, which is, life-altering in moments. It's a powerful burning bush, if you will.
Yeah, to tackle it, so I can imagine.
A narrative, like a story, and it was easier to follow and understand.
Right, exactly. So okay, so just taking it back a little bit. So 1995, okay, and then Hermes came into your life when?
That night.
Okay.
And then the next day, I had a long vision with the goddess Diana, who took me through the past of my life and showed me where I had been sick or ill with codependency and other issues that I got from my family line and my upbringing, and just seeing things through a scanner darkly, through a glass darkly.
Are you sure you're not Pleiadian? Yeah, it becomes so clear. Did it become so clear when you were showing that too? I mean, it's like, yeah.
It was bearing my soul before me, and actually it helped me love myself more and say, oh my gosh, I'm not a victim of circumstance. All of this actually makes sense.
Yeah, you're not some freak outcast and it's almost like you'd rather be a freak outcast, because it's almost like one of those feelings like, okay, you couldn't quite put your finger on it why you were different, you know what I mean? You just can't put your finger on it when you're an incarnate like that, and it's like, okay, well, what is odd? It's like when I was growing up, I mean, when I was 4 years old, 5 years old, I knew the news was bullshit already and all that, but I lived in a world where it was like, okay, my grandparents, great people, the World War II generation, but they bought everything lock, stock, and barrel. They heard from Dan Rather on TV or whoever was Walter Cronkite, and, it was either one or three things in the 80s growing up here. It was either, on the news at night, it was either the the crack epidemic, AIDS, Northern Ireland's fighting, or the big bad Russians are coming to get us, and just this perpetual, caught in this perpetual head game. But then again, until the mid-'80s, I mean, most people in America still believe pro wrestling was completely real. So it really goes to that. And it's like I always innately knew it was bullshit. And I always had that ability to debate people like my grandparents. And back them into a corner, and it's like they knew I was right, and then I felt like, okay, well, I'm just a kid, what do I know? But I knew my truth, and it's really something. And then, like you said, when you realize, that, hey, I'm not a victim of circumstance, there is a reason for this, it's really kind of a liberating feeling to come to that reality.
Yeah,
And
I call them an epiphanatus.
yeah, I like that term. I like that term. And so then when you first had your first contact with Hermes, did you find that all of a sudden, I mean, your life changed? Like you were just, did you go through this phase where you just had to learn everything you could about Sirius for a while, and everything that went along with it, and then just one by one all these things started to click for you? I mean, the resonation level I know is completely outstanding, because we're the type of people that we don't buy bullshit easy, and when we say something resonates with us, it does. It's not like we're just picking a new fad to get into, oh, well, this is cool one week and this is cool another week. I mean, when I did it, for the first time in your life, did you find something resonating with you to the core of your soul that you had never felt before?
No, not in particular. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
No, you're a Sirian, of course.
I grew up with probably one of the most intense cases in history of sleep paralysis. So the oddness in my life began basically at birth.
Okay.
And Hermes always got to this point where he said, just think of this. If it's odd, it's God.
That I like that. That's a good quote. That really resonates. Yeah, we were talking about sleep. You asked me about sleep paralysis in the pre-interview, and I'm like, no, I really haven't had any case of it, except for one time I thought I was, when I was the one time I've ever seen any dark beings. I think some reptilians were messing with me right around the time I was awakening. I basically just told them to get the fuck away from me, and it stopped right then and there. But the sleep paralysis, I've had other people mention that to me too, and I almost kind of get fearful when I hear that. I'm like, I hope that I would never have to deal with that. And if you don't mind, what was that like to have to deal with?
Extremely depressing, really. Even as, a little 4-year-old being depressed because there's nightmares every night. And I believe that it happened as a symptom of leaving my body at night and going through the lower astral, the really dark aspects of the darkness, especially back in the 70s. It was much worse. Terrible.
Even through the 80s, and I imagine the late 70s were even worse. And it's like, yeah, I know that, I don't, that's another thing too, is not only do I not channel, I don't astral travel, right? And I'm sure that's something you've done, and I've heard from people that do astral travel that I trust and respect it. It's that the only problem with it is it's that first level of breaking through can be really dark, and there's a lot of hardcore shit to get through in that first level. And so basically it sounds like, you were stuck there for a while.
Yeah, part of it is made up of the collective unconscious of human history, and given our brutal and violent history, it's really not a good place. And then there's the ghost level of people who just couldn't figure out their stuff on Earth and are still going over and over again the same life. The Lost Souls room from Beetlejuice.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that, because my co-host of N5D's Cosmic Awakening, Michelle Walling, talks about that there's that stuck level like that, and those people are stuck there. And why do you suppose it is they're stuck there? Why do you suppose those souls are stuck in that level? Do you have any inkling?
Yes, of course. Buddhism explains it completely. It's called the bardo.
Okay.
B-A-R-D-O. Google that shit.
Okay, totally. Google it. It's the second time I've heard that today. Talk about synchronicity. Wait, spell it again. Go ahead and spell it again. Bardo. B-A-R-D-O.
Yep.
Okay.
Synchrotastic.
Wow. So it's basically a combination. So that really helps me a lot to understand that, because what you're saying is that's really just it's just a big reflection of all the crap, all the negativity from you know, Earth's history and the violent societies that we are,
Yeah, the
and
shadow
basically,
of humanity. What one would simplify to say Satan or devil or scapegoat, closer to the truth.
yeah, exactly, and the way it really is I'd rather deal with those terms like Satan or the devil or anything. It's much more vast and scary than people realize. But at the same time, you know, it's just a level you've got to get through. But it's not something just as simple as a devil walking up to you with a red cape on and a pitchfork. I mean, these are. Would you say these are lost souls, or it's just a mirror of your shadow self? I mean, do you think maybe that astral level we're talking about, that initial evil dark level, is just kind of getting over the darkness we have within us,
Well,
or
sure,
that
their
he has?
souls are too heavy to rise. They wouldn't pass the test of the scale with the heart and the feather of Ma'at.
Ah,
They have heavy weight upon their souls, and they're not even in the place where they can say, oh, I think something might help me. Maybe there's something above me. They don't even lift their heads. And that's
so
why in the Buddhist tradition, they're called hungry ghosts. And you can have them as ancestors. And they can feed off your energy now in this lifetime and push you into doing what they would like you to do and live through you. It's a very sick business, my friend.
it's weird you would say that. I've heard one other person talk about that ever, and they didn't tie it together like you just did. This guy, Ron Amatron, who I was listening to one time, somebody was,
Amatron. What a
yeah,
name.
yeah, he was, because somebody asked him, he said, well, isn't it good that I contact my ancestors? And he was kind of arrogant about it. He says, well, why would you want to contact your ancestors? And basically, he was talking about the same thing you are. He's like, they feed off your energy, and even if they don't, it's just not a good idea to go there. I
Well,
mean,
I would have to disagree with him with that all or nothing statement because we do have
right.
positive, loving ancestors.
That's what turned me off from him. See, that's another thing. That's what turned me off from him, because of that. And so
Yeah.
that kind of threw me for a loop, and you're tying it together. He's just not
I
understanding
had
that
an
there's both.
let me go there. I had an alcoholic father, and he did nothing pure or good in his life, as far as I know. And that would stick him as a soul in that ghost realm, saying, what went wrong? Where did I go wrong? And I, as a human being, as an adult child of an alcoholic, went through the 12 steps because I needed to heal my family line. So I did it. And I'm not an alcoholic. Thank you very much.
No, and you know what? That's exactly crazy that you would say that, because this guy, he it resonated with me what he was saying on one level, but he wasn't putting that part of it together. That it could have been on you to maybe heal that family line. I mean, it's either like all or nothing. You're right. It was like he was like completely doom and gloom about it, instead of telling people, you know, there's another part of it too, is maybe, you know, maybe the mission is to heal that family line and heal the history, but
Yeah,
keep all
according to
that
David
in mind.
Icke, I'm full reptilian because my grandmother's brother, this is not on the Wikipedia, I looked, but I've been told my whole life. My grandmother's brother is Senator John Glenn. And I was raised
Oh,
Jehovah's Witness, which is another conspiracy theory situation,
yeah,
right? So you've got
right.
the bloodline of the Illuminati, which is ridiculous because Illuminati means illuminated. Oh, that's a pet peeve of mine. I think we
People get
should
hung
use
up
the word.
on a catchphrase. Well, they do. They get hung up on a catchphrase, and they don't realize that all these have a yin and a yang with them. I mean, I think we do
Us
get
as
hung up too
well.
much
I've
in
been
terms.
through that. But they're perverting everything, especially this new militant group called ISIS. Oh my gosh. That's getting
Yeah.
my goat. I'm an ISIS girl.
Or exactly. It's like this. It's like people that get hung up on the term. They get hung up on terms. One thing is, and I'll catch a lot of hell for saying this, but people that get hung up on the term Ashtar Command or Cobra, these things are all relevant and good. But what I don't like is when people just get hung up on a term and they don't even see anything past that. Oh, the Illuminati. Oh, this or that. Or that, look at that Illuminati symbol. Look at this or that. It's actually part of the double deception game. They want you to just get hung up on that term.
Well, I'll
You
tell
know what I
you
mean?
what, the
Yeah.
song by the Rolling Stones, Sympathy for the
For the
Devil. You
Devil,
put the word
1969.
if you put the words juxtapositions just a little bit, it'll say, fooling you is the nature of my game.
While puzzling you is, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right, right.
Exactly. I love it.
Yeah, and that's the truth. Riddle me this, riddle me that. That will drive you nuts.
It
That's
will, because you'll get hung up on that.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
you'll
that's
get
why
hung up on that. You won't even know if it's good or evil. You won't even know. You'll be so hung up on that, and it could even work the other way, where you're totally in love with it, but you wouldn't know what the hell it really was because you're hung up on a term.
right. It's not the essence of the thing, and it's merely a symbol for it. And that's why I like to use the word occult, hidden, mysterious.
Yes, that's exactly what it means. It's the essence to life and figuring this thing out. It's not getting hung up on a symbol of an eye on a dollar bill, or, hey, look at this, the Twin Towers are blowing up if you do a $20 bill this certain way. They want, if there was dark forces, they want you to stay hung up on something like that. They would want you to, like, do that because, one, you're going to get hung up on that and you're not going to look any further into it, or even two, you might even think, oh, it's cool and rebellious even, and oh, that's great, but still, regardless, you're going to be completely clueless, and oh, well, this motherfucker said that, or this motherfucker said this, and it's like you have no idea. And it's really, and the ironic thing is, it's all relevant, it's all important.
Well,
And
I
whether
learned
it's,
that in the
yeah,
70s with all the satanic cults and the Manson and all that crap. I saw that and I was very aware of it for some reason, right? And I was
well,
like, they're demonizing things. And as I grew up, like Geraldo did something on it, and the story just kept unfolding. And it
oh
was like,
God.
it's totally bunk, the whole entire thing. And if he really thought he was Jesus, he would not have gone to jail. Thank you very much. I mean, that's ridiculous. It was all manufactured. I believe it was all manufactured.
Totally, to fool you. And it's not even just, yeah, it's to fool you on so many different levels and to keep you hung up in that realm. It's counter control opposition at its finest. And yeah, it's like that in
Mind
the
control,
70s.
yo.
Yeah, yeah, and I can see that. And just like the term, even the term, think about how hung up people are to even ever look into anything that we're talking about because of one term called New Age. Oh, those New Age people. Well, first of all, that's a stupid term. Second of all, the New Age, the real New Age, is really the ancient age. And you know what I mean? It's like we get boxed into these terms. It's like, I know so many people who are into the Ashtar command, and you know what, and I believe it's real, and I like reading the teachings of it, but so many people would never even know what the hell it was because all they hear is that term. They just hear that term, the Ashtar command with the, I mean, they couldn't tell you anything about it except for that it started with an A and the second word started with a
I
C. They
get
just
you.
don't.
They're in love with the boy band. I get it.
There you go. Thank you. That's beautiful because I'm going to use that analogy because it's true. I mean, don't you find that too to be the case sometimes?
Yeah, I'm 40 and now, I'm seasoned and yeah, I see all this stuff. For those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, it is getting so blatant. Hermes says, just get some popcorn, sit back, and enjoy the show.
Totally. That's the best. That's probably the best advice I've heard maybe ever. And it's like, okay, a couple of colleagues of mine that are admins in the big Pleiadians group will talk privately about some of the things that bother us that we hear, and it's like people will get hung up on these terms, or the first question they'll ask, and it's never about what they ask or say, it's the tone you can just feel behind it. It's like they'll write in and they'll ask, well, how did you know you's a Pleiadian? How'd you know you's a Sirian? How'd you know? I only matched 12 of the 14 characteristics, and I don't really think you can. And it's like, it's something that you have to feel, and even at that, you still, even when you completely know who you are, like you do with Hermes and everything, you still, in every scenario, are still having that mind opening and figuring shit out.
It's frightening.
You're not like,
yeah.
you're not mailing it. You're not mailing it into the cosmic rocking chair and saying, "Hey, I got this. Whatever. I don't need to."
My favorite singer in the entire universe is Kate Bush, and she has a saying that's very similar. What were we talking about? I just lost it because I love her so much.
We were talking about like people hung up on a term, or like I was mentioning, like people will
No,
ask us, like, well, how did you know what starseed you were, or where you're from, or who you are? And it's like you want to even tell that people, you don't even want to try to help those people figure it out, because at that point they're so hung up on a damn term.
yeah. No, I lost it because you wound too much. It was like the last.
Exactly.
Oh,
It's the Pleiadian. Well, right. You were talking about Kate Bush, and she had a song, or she had a line that you liked, and I hope, by the way, she's no relation to the Bush family, but even if she is, it's all good.
well, Barbara is supposed to be the granddaughter of Aleister Crowley.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that funny? Well, Katie is from England. Who knows?
Aleister Crowley is another one. People, it doesn't matter what people might think of him if they actually read his stuff. People will hear, I swear to God, people that have never read any of his stuff, they will hear that name. All you have to do is mention that name, Aleister Crowley, and they will freak out. They don't even know. They wouldn't even know who he was from Adam. But it's like,
why, though, do you waste your time on looking at the poor and suffering in such a way? I mean, why not just gloss over that and let it play?
exactly. I just think it's kind of funny how people are they're so doom and gloom instantly, instead of looking into anything, and not that it really is even relevant.
Sure. That's, it's a function of the ego to keep us safe. It's just been exaggerated and perverted, and it's sick.
Yeah, it really is. It reminds me of, I used to be deeply into politics and everything like that, and now I always saw past the bullshit, but now it's like I don't even care about it. But you have those people like, maybe somebody like you or I that don't vote or don't give a shit about it because we know the truth. But then you'll have those people, right, that they'll sit there and go, well, they're all a bunch of liars. I don't watch any of that. I don't believe in any of that. I wouldn't even go there. But they're the first people that if one of those politicians was to come to their house with $100 or $1,000 to give them, boy, they'd be their biggest fan and vote for them and everything like that. And so it's like it's also scary to be right for the wrong reasons. It's scary to be right for the ignorant reasons too. It's like they're saying that, but it's just because they don't have the consciousness to completely get it, nor the consciousness to look into it or to really realize it's bullshit. It's just that they're
days anymore. I believe it is an active, willful ignorance.
Yeah. I have to agree with you. I have to agree.
The wheat has been separated from the chaff, and we are ready for go time.
Totally. Cards on the table time. No, it really is. Yeah, exactly. I mean, so it's like, I hope so too, and I think also too that we're in this window right now. Like I always tell people, I do believe in what Cryon and Barbara Marciniak talked about, that really 2012 was just a halfway point in a 36-year galactical shift. But the catch to that is that after that 18-year point, after we passed 2012, right, we're kind of in this no time window right now where all these parallel realities are starting to come into play, and all these timelines are starting to merge. And then, of course, you get into the topic I know that Michelle and I have talked about before, timeline manipulation and timeline wars, and people manipulating timelines and then having to go back and fix them. And it's really time to not get hung up on what other people are thinking. You've got to go within. Because if you're looking for somebody to come save you, like some of these people look into the sky, oh, when are the ETs coming to save us? Where are they? Who are they? Well, I would direct that person to the nearest mirror.
Yeah, totally. Because even if there was some kind of terrestrial savior, it's not going to save your soul.
No, that's a good point.
Physical body all you like. You can become a transhuman even. But
yeah.
That has nothing to do with reality.
No, it's not. You can become a transhuman. You can either, I'll give people a perfect analogy, and I've done a talk on this before. You could either do that, try to sell yourself out for a little bit of technology, go down the path of like a burnt out human race, like I consider the Greys to be, and sell everything, or you can go on an enlightened level like the Pleiadians, like the Sirians, like the Arcturians, and go develop that through consciousness and go that route. But you're right about that. Your soul is eternal, but if you want to say screw your soul just to save your body for a while, just to make $100 today when you could make $1 million tomorrow, well, so to speak, you know, I'm using that as an analogy, but it's true. It's really, if people are looking for somebody to save themselves, they're not getting the lesson. You know, I mean, even the benevolent extraterrestrials had done that in the past, and it really blew up in their face because people get dependent and look at them as gods and worship them. It happened in the Atlantis Lemuria times, and of course we know what ended up happening there. It was really ugly, and hence we're back here again in another timeline, you know, to fix that, or we're coming back into time to fix it. Who knows? Atlantis is both our future and our past.
I'm pretty sure that right now we are living out the Christ consciousness story. His story left off in the middle, I believe.
Yes.
And now we're coming back into Christ consciousness. If you're a Hindu, you will call it Krishna consciousness. If you're a Robert Anton Wilson fan, you will call it cosmic consciousness. If you're a Pandit Gopi Krishna fan, it is the new human, the man of light. And it is where we're heading, no matter what.
Well, yeah, like one religion will call the Great Flood the Great Flood. One will call it the Deluge. One will call it Noah's Ark. One will call it this. One will call it that. But I agree with you, and it's like that ties into another point that I bring up all the time. In my opinion, and this is getting off record, when people talk about the Bible and the true historical stories of it, I really truly believe the book of Genesis per se was mostly occurred, a little bit of in Egypt at the end, but most of it that probably occurred on Mars. And the book of Revelations, I think, already happened, and that was kind of the middle ground. Now, like you're saying, I really think we're in that Christ consciousness. We're kind of in uncharted waters that haven't been written yet, per se. I mean, none of this shit has already been told in a book. It's not like you're going to go back.
We haven't lived it in our physical bodies yet, as many visions as visionaries have. We have not lived it in flesh, so it is not true yet.
You mean to tell me that it wasn't already written in a book? Oh my God, that's what all the Earth religions want to try to do. Well, mainly American mainstream Christianity, I can tell you that it's already been living. And if that's the case, why would we even be giving a fuck to even talk about it right now today? I mean, I just can't imagine that some of these people go, well, it's already been written. Well, okay.
Well, you know, you can come from the perspective of Bob Marley and say, you know, in the Redemption song, we've got to fulfill the book. Now, what book is that? Well, sure, it's the good book, it's the Bible, but there are the bigger books of life upstairs. That's what I call heaven. Upstairs, yeah. There are much bigger books of life. And we're in the end of the Kali Yuga, according to the Hindu tradition, the cataclysm before the dawn.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Bringing of the dawn. The darkest hour is just before the dawn. I mean, it's like, okay, in what version of the Bible? The real one, the one that 48 books were taken out of, the one that any mention of reincarnation was taken out of there.
Pre-biblical themes.
Oh God, to the victor goes the spoil. Whoever was controlling the world at whatever era we're talking about, they can alter it. And I've even heard, this is so funny because now that I see all this shit so clearly, I've heard most people that are stuck in that kind of American Christianity religion will be like, oh, well, there's no mention in the Bible of life on other planets or extraterrestrials. How could they be? Well, first of all, even the fake version is loaded with
angels? It's not aliens.
Second of all, even their version of a goddamn thing in a cloud with a harp all day, well, that's not on Earth. So even your convoluted version would be an extraterrestrial.
I've been arguing lately. What constitutes alien?
We are.
There's so many dimensions. I mean, Hermes, my spirit guide, could be called an alien. You know.
Anything, even more than that. If you left your hometown, if you went and stayed in another town in your own state for a while, you're an alien.
There are no borders. There are no boundaries.
Exactly. And by 3D terms, if you walk out, I mean, you're an alien. Oh, you're alien to this state. You're alien to that. It means to alienate. That term is used to alienate. And you're an illegal alien. You're an alien. Well, geez, if you're anywhere but your own home, then by that standard, you're a goddamn alien.
There you go.
So, it's really a trip, though. And I just hope that, I think it's good to get people to talk about it. And the more that we talk about it and share our perspectives, the more it opens people up. And I think it's going to be okay. But so how often do you communicate with Hermes? Just on, like, say, on an average, if you had to, break it down every day. Is there some days where he's always there with you, I'm sure, but I mean,
He does take vacations.
Cool. Good for him. Smart man.
Due to my time-space strange case, my kundalini rises, and I leave my body, and it's like I'm in a waking dream for a few weeks. So I have really calmed down my vibration and worked on grounding. So I don't talk to Hermes as often as I would like, because it's like calling the fire upon myself.
That so resonates that you would say that, because lately, the last month or so, I had been told I needed to ground it a little bit more. Need to ground a little bit more, and I've been trying to do that, and my guides have backed off a little. They're still always there. I can still see my orbs, and I can still get telepathic communication, but I'm trying to ground a little bit more to get centered for the big whatever. I don't want to say the big event, because it's a series of events. There's not going to be some big ass event where it just all happens at once and we're all whatever.
I'll be at 0 point.
Yeah.
So you can call that the big event if you want to.
Yeah. Well, talk about a build-up, and it's not going to be just this big. We're really in 0 point, and we're really in zero time right now, and it's up to humanity how fast this goes. Now, check this out, though. If humanity as a collective all wanted to get together and decide they wanted to get through this, like people like you and I do, well, then we could have this big boom, bada bang event. But the people that are sitting there waiting for it, though, I mean, they're going to be waiting if it was up to them, they'd be waiting in infinity forever. They'd be stuck in a parallel, nothing happened forever.
People like that, and I'm discerning, not judging. People like that are in a different vibrational level, to where they're not even self-centered. There's no center. They're like slivers of souls, and I think that's where we get new souls, more people on the planet. I don't think so. In Buddhism, you can incarnate as one being in 3, 4, 80 bodies. It doesn't matter. It's all division of the soul. So when you think about it, when the soul collects itself, I believe there will be a lot less physical manifestations of people on the planet, and that might take the form or the look of an apocalypse.
That is brilliant, because also too, would you say too that in that scenario, then everybody's awakened to who their collective soul is? Okay, it's not like you're shut off. You're not wondering, God, that feeling like some of the starseeds have our whole life. We're like wondering, there's something we can't quite put our finger on. It's like, where is that place I'm thinking of, or where am I? It's just like you're longing for something, but it's probably all those other souls that you're incarnated into. And some of them here, some of them wherever the hell they could be. Some of them could be in the cosmos doing their thing on the ship. But it's like a full awakening to it. It's like all the timelines coming together and people being aware of everything. People used to always say when I was growing up, I'd hear scientists talk about we use 10 to 15 to 20% of our brain, right? And that someday when we can use 30 to 40% of it, we'll be so much more intelligent, so much more brilliant. Well, yeah, that goes without saying, but I think the reality of it is it means that you're that much more conscious and aware. Okay, you're aware.
Ourselves.
Yes, you're just aware of who your true self is, and that's a good point. That maybe that apocalypse is that all those souls all those bodies that your soul is in are coming together to form that being and making heaven on earth. That's a really good point. I mean, to me, that really resonates with me, and I appreciate you saying that, because I hadn't. And that's what happens when people talk like this. We put these ideas together, and where we're coming from, and one idea spurs another, and it really helps to put that puzzle together that we're really all trying to do, for ourselves. But as we do that, we do it as a collective as well. And
I get all this. Hermes. It's not me, and I'm not reading it. I'm not reading a book and getting little movies in my head, and You know, this is definitely straight up channeling.
Totally, because if it wasn't, you got the wrong idea. You got to be making $1 million in Hollywood writing a bunch of, but you could, but then again too, you couldn't make this shit up. So
You can't. I'm not that brilliant. I mean, that's how I
I'm
know.
not either. No, I know, me too. I'm not either, because if I was, I mean, I'm in the wrong business, and I think that too about a
Everyone in
lot of
Hollywood
people.
is channeling too, and the good ones anyway.
Yeah, George Lucas, whether it was Star Wars, talking about the the Lyran Orion War, Star Trek with Roddenberry, and then of course, you got your disinformation bullshit, like a lot of the movies with the creepy, slimy. Let's make an extraterrestrial seem as slimy and gooey as it can possibly be to scare you.
Do you mean
I
alien?
mean, well, yeah, Alien, or I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Some movies, or any other, or the 1950s scare movies.
I got a
The
question
robot,
for you.
yeah.
I saw an alien during an awakening once, and he looked like he had squiddy-like dreadlocks. They were like his antennae, his dreadlocks, and he kind of had the skin of a cockroach. Does this sound like anybody?
No, it doesn't. I mean, but the universe is vast. There could be, there's things that look like everything, but I've never, to my knowledge, I've never dealt with, I've never dealt with any being like that personally.
Well, it
If I
was a
had,
vision. It wasn't like in my face.
right. Well, there are insectoid-looking beings in the galaxy. There's humanoids that have several legs, several arms. I mean, Dolores Cannon really does put it best, and she's done a lot of past life regression,
Yes.
not even going into that realm because she wanted to. She was just trying to get people to quit smoking and lose weight, but she kept hearing the same old stories again and again and again. It's just creation, how it's came about on different planets and different areas, and it doesn't mean that it's a good or a bad thing, because usually people get hung up on this, it's either good or bad. It'd be like buying the old Crayola set of 64 colors and thinking that everything was just either black or white. Well, the reality of it is, throw those two colors out of the set, and every truth and every story you could think of is somewhere within those other 62 colors and in the million shades and those kind of like different dimensions that exist.
I think that just comes from people not having a lot of self-reference. If they're just black and white, they're just in the judgment mind. They're one-minded, one-sided.
Yeah, I would say it's either this or that.
Well, neither
Just go by the. Yeah, what else is there? I've even heard people say this or that. It's either this. What else is there besides good or bad, black or white? It's either it is or it isn't. Well, no, it really is.
Binary code, ones and zeros, bullshit.
Exactly. And the reality of it is, if anything, it's probably throw those out the window. It's never
not
either one.
That's not nature. Just because you can calculate nature doesn't make calculation nature.
I like that quote. Yeah, just because you think you can calculate nature, it doesn't mean.
Quantify. That's probably a better word. Because you can quantify nature. So it's just, the science is so childlike, and not in a good way.
It's not, and then the other side of it is too. It's like the other side is religion stuck, not spirituality, but organized religion is stuck in that other mode where it's just got to be creation. And I've always, since I was able to even talk, it really made sense to me that if anything, creation and evolution, those two opposite theories that people on both sides thought that neither one the other could exist, but it really goes hand in hand. I mean, how could it not? But people are just either caught in this belief, and then it really tells the tale how upset they get when somebody else has an opposite viewpoint, because somebody truly confident in what they believed and knew and felt in their heart, it really wouldn't bother them to the point of them getting nasty and arrogant if somebody had a counterpoint.
Of course.
Now, until that other person got real shitty about it. But I'm not talking about a situation like that. It's like, I don't know if you ever heard of Terrence McKenna before.
Of course.
Yeah, of course you have. Well, he was on Coast to Coast in the late 90s one time talking. Great show. And I just so happened to be listening. And this guy called in. This guy that was a pastor, I think, called in. And all of a sudden he told Terrence that he was a servant of the devil and, you know, and all this. And the guy was just almost getting so upset. He was hostile about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, God, he was so worked up. And I couldn't even imagine why in anybody's wildest dream, if you even met somebody you met that completely was against anything you were saying, why you would get that worked up about it and like, oh, you're just the devil, you're just and it's like, it'd be like sitting there and saying that, oh, I saw a rainbow and it's a deception from Satan.
Well, I kind of grew up with that thinking. As a Jehovah's Witness, they said Satan will come as an angel of light, and it's like, great. Now I'm scared of angels of light. Thanks.
Exactly, I hear that all the time too, and that's not to say, okay, that's not to say that something of another agenda couldn't come and try and try to trick somebody, but it's like almost like a, well, anything that's other than what we believe, even if it looks great, has got to be of an evil mind. It's all evil, and these people are so, I think these kind of people are so hung up on the evil that they would actually love for it to happen, and they don't even realize it. They're so hung up on demons and, oh, it's a demon. Anything they can't understand or think about is a demon. This guy that I used to listen to, Dan and Brinkley, he's had 3 or 4 near-death experiences. He said, you got to understand, where I grew up in South Carolina, at the Baptist church I went to, everybody was going to hell. And when he said that, in that moment, I laughed because I got what he meant. I mean, you were just, you know, you were doomed 7 ways to Sunday, and you better just get on your knees and repent and beg every second of your life.
Yeah, and that's not love. And that's definitely not self-love.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not. And I think,
you know, what explains the sheeple to me best? What explains the sheeple to me best is from the Gita, from the Vedas, where it says, you know, the Shakespearean life is a play. It's, life is a stage, and God is like the choreographer. Do well your part. There your duty ends. So don't be too attached to your role. And it is a play, and God enjoys it. And if you see the drama, trauma of your life, I call it the fiction friction of your life, the stuff that moves you forward, the stuff that gets you out of bed, or the stuff that puts you back into bed. All of these positives and negatives in life are the alchemical soil that grows our soul through these stories, these fictitious stories of samsara, the world of suffering, that we now find ourselves incarnate in.
Yeah, we've sure done a good job of manifesting it. That's for sure.
Well, no blame. It's just a game.
Yes. And knowing, not just knowing it's a game, but getting full of the feeling of knowing it's a game. Because some people might even say, oh, it's just a game, and they don't get why it's just a game.
Because they're playing it off. Because they're players.
Yes, they're totally playing it off. They're playing God. They are, and they don't get that what they're saying is true, but they're not full of that feeling. They're using a catchphrase, hence what I said about people hung up on a term like the Ashtar command, or hung up on this or that word, or this guy said this or this guy said that. I've heard some of the greatest spiritual teachers, like even Drew Valo Melchizedek, was talking about how one of the things that really bothered him was, and that hurt him, was that he didn't like some of the people that he was teaching to get hung up on him. It's real hard because
Jesus
those people will get hung up.
Disciples were like, okay, I'm going to worship you. And he's like, no, dude, no, I'm teaching you to fish. I'm not giving you a frickin' fish. And then when he died,
it's like this.
Church turned it's worship.
Yeah, this church I went to when I was younger, they had some literature that said, if you ever do meet Jesus, make sure you throw yourself down on the ground and bow and tell him you're nothing in his presence, and that, you know, if anything, Jesus made it. Get your ass up off your knees. I'm just as I mean, yeah. But I mean, it's almost so, and it made me mad to hear, and it kind of hurt my feelings when I was younger. But now I just realize how lame it is, and
it's demented.
I don't even talk. it's demented, and people, I don't even talk to people like that anymore. And I even think that some of those people, though, are coming around, and because it's such to the point where they know it's such bullshit, but they're still in denial, they don't even have the heart anymore to really argue it anymore.
Oh,
And if
that's
they do,
good.
they're shut down real quick. The doom and the gloom and the doom and the gloom, and it's all doom and gloom. Well, good. You know, there's nothing you can tell me that I haven't heard. Okay, why don't you contact me when the whole planet's blown up? I mean, what is the worst that's going to happen? I mean, yeah, tell me
There's
that
death.
hell.
There's strangling fear of death because they think God is not a loving God, and that's very
Oh, I
unfortunate.
know. You're going to be shot, killed, chopped up, raped, stabbed, buried, dug back up, have it done again, this and that. I mean, okay, so what next? Bring it on. Okay, you can't fear me anymore with that. So what else is going to happen? You've got all this happening.
Like you're still harboring angst over this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, ooh, what could it be? Ooh. And with these people, their biggest hell would be to be caught in limbo forever where nothing bad did happen to them. They would be just like waiting for this impending doom and gloom, but yet it never will happen. I see a bad episode of The Twilight Zone coming in here. It's like he's waiting for the most impending worst thing to happen, but yet it never will happen. He'll be waiting and waiting.
Making fun of them now.
Yeah, well, they need it for a wake-up call.
Do they? Do they really? I mean, are they even going to listen to you? Maybe we don't give them our time.
I agree with you, and it's like I kind of am to the point now where it's like I'm starting to have to pinch myself and wonder if they even still really exist in my reality.
That's how you heal a wound. You know, you let it go.
Yeah.
There's no revenge in the story. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the karma in action necessarily.
Yeah, that's a good point. We don't. And it's not even about a good or a bad thing with karma. Karma is just how the universe works, but it doesn't mean it's going to come back and happen in this lifetime. It's not like, okay, well, this person wronged me, so God, I can't wait till he gets his. Well, you're just putting negative
energy. The karma of the very moment. The very moment you tell a lie or are false or untrue, that very moment you have a karmic experience. And that just grows and grows and grows until it's big enough for you to recognize it.
Huh. That's a good way to look at it.
That's where the seed begins, and that's why we must have those wonderful characteristics that I think Disney really brainwashed us with. You know, the characteristics of a hero.
Oh God.
Virtue, truth.
Oh yeah, Disney. Yeah, Disney. Yeah, there's a great fine example of mass marketing to brainwash a society. Yeah,
However,
exactly.
I found the gems in it. Maleficent. Wow, that blew me away. I can see it from the higher vibration. It's a fabulous story.
Exactly. It tells the tale with some of the stuff too. You really, if you have no judgment, like you're saying, and you watch for the undertones, you can really see some good stuff in it too.
Well,
so basically,
patriarchy being, you know, sick and demented, and nature. I don't even think it was her as a ruler or her as a queen. I think she personified nature as Gaia.
Yeah. Boy,
against the machine of the man.
Yeah, and the man always trying to keep her down.
Well, I don't even, no spoilers.
No spoilers, no spoilers. Yeah, that one's kind of easy to see coming, but there's all these undertones, even in things that people say or disinformation or whatever. You can always look for the undertones to hear the story. I mean, people will say that, well, you know, like we were talking about David Icke, you know, him just talking about everything's a reptilian and him not getting, and then some people will just be all over his tip, and then some people will be like, okay, well, he's just a disinformation agent, but does it really matter if he's either?
No, it really doesn't.
It has nothing to fucking do with a goddamn thing. It's like this guy Aldous Huxley that wrote A Brave New World. You know, it really told the tale, but then some people will be like, oh, he was just a New World Order disinformation agent rubbing it in our face. Well, who gives a fuck? I don't give a fuck. I mean, even Hitler believed in free health care for people, but that doesn't mean that I believe, you know, it doesn't mean if he told me to go jump off a bridge, I would do it too, you know. So it's always about the message. It's never about who's saying it.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, I don't care. I don't, you know, these aren't people, and even on a 3D level, these aren't people I know personally in my life. So I
Right.
don't care. I'm not looking for, well, he thinks healthcare should be free, but did you know this is why he did, or this is, no, well, I really don't care because I'm not into any of that part of it. And I'm only going to go to the point where I feel and resonate with the thing he said. I'm not going to change my mind on other shit because he thought this one way and then, you know, I agreed with, but because he's thinking something else, I'm going to go along with it too. I mean, people get so hung up on that too, and or do they? Or maybe it's just a deception. It just seems like people are quick to do it like that, and maybe it's just me overreacting too. So I think we're all
There's so
learning a
many
lesson together.
trolls on the internet, and the word shill, paid shill, has been thrown around like ketchup. So it's
Oh,
really
God.
part of the carnage of conspiracy theory.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, sometimes you'll hear in the groups, you'll hear even, oh well, this person's a troll, that person's a troll, and they'll throw it out there so quick, and it's like they don't even, they're not even, they're just using the word. It isn't even nothing but a word when that person could be or they may not be, but we get so hung up on blah 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 3D language because we're operating out of a fear system and not a mind chatter. We're operating out of constant mind chatter instead of an all-knowing consciousness. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and that's why Buddhism is very helpful to study, because it teaches you to listen to your mind chatter and to negate it completely.
Exactly, boy. That's a good point. You know, negate it, but take a second to listen to it and recognize it for what it is.
You've
Not
got to sit with it. You can't get rid of it unless you sit with it. Yeah.
there you go. Instead of getting into this fear game where, oh God, I just, if I could just start meditating more and getting rid of that mind chatter, it's really driving me nuts.
No, it's
But you
all
got to
about
learn to keep
confronting
some
that monster
perspective.
in the closet. It's all about telling Freddy Krueger he has no power over you.
Perfect. It really is. And that's what, you know, that's what even the angelic, you know, that's what people, guides that I believe in, and people in the mainstream that I believe in, well, in our realm, like the Melchizedeks, James Gillen, people like that, that will say they have no power over you. You know, you just tell them in your own way that, you know, get lost, don't listen to it. You know, you don't resonate with it, so don't listen to it. So tell them to go away or whatever you're going to do. And that's what you got to do, you know, and you just don't vibe with it on that level, you
I think
know,
it's
and
very important in these times, especially, that every human being on the planet does some kind of small little meditation or some little promise or some little prayer that says, I am a sovereign being. I wear
mm-hmm.
my own crown, and I cannot be taken over, and I cannot be possessed. I am sovereign.
Yeah, and before people sit there and ask, well, what do I got to do to do that? Well, you do it in your own way to where you're convinced. It doesn't mean you sit there and have to do telekinesis for 18 hours or sit and go om and chant.
You
It's in
do it
your
on the toilet. It does not matter.
there you go. I like really that simplifies it right there. You could, if it's something, if it's a way that resonates with you, then
It's a
do that
thought
because
in
who
your
else could tell
heart.
you? Yeah,
Yeah.
who
And you just
else could tell you how
crown.
to do it?
Sit there. Just imagine it. Yeah, I have a crown. And you're done. You don't ever have to do it again.
It's one time. It's
Yeah.
like I heard somebody say one time, if you really wanted to, well, this is kind of weird analogy. If you truly want to be saved or be in touch with that light that is Christ, it's just one time in your own way of expressing your intention of being loved, like just, you know, and that could just be a fleeting second of a thought. It's no other prove anything to anybody.
Right.
It's not going through a initiation to get into a dormitory. It's nothing like that. It's nothing that anybody else would even know that you did.
And it's the
But
most
you,
important thing ever.
it really is. It's a one-time thing. It's not an every Sunday you have to reaffirm. It'd be like every Sunday. Every Sunday you have to reaffirm your commitment to Hermes. Every Sunday between 10 and noon your time. Yes, with a potluck afterwards.
Well, I
Yes.
understand that the structures were made and built to actually divorce us from our higher selves. The word higher self, well, not the word. There's a word called daemon, D-A-E-M-O-N, which meant the higher self perfected you, your holy guardian angel, the part of you that is in that higher vibration, the part of you that doesn't incarnate necessarily, the part of you that's with God.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Your higher self. And sometimes that gets used as a catchphrase too. Your higher self really is you, that part that is still with the Creator. And, you know, people need to realize that. And again comes all the disinformation. I like how you put it teaches us to divorce ourselves from ourselves, because that's really what even like a stereotypical wedding, the way we think about it, having to be done in a church. I mean, how many people do you know that have been married 3 times? So you know that, okay, how many times in your life can you say till death do us part? You know,
It's
I
all
mean,
hypocrisy, you know that. It's hardly
totally.
worth commenting on. It's so obvious.
I know it is. Yeah, exactly. It's really, which hence the point. It's almost going to put me, yeah, it puts people that want to do talk shows out of business like me, because most of this shit is getting to the point, right, where it's like people like us know that, and more people are. So most of this shit is really not even worth saying. I mean, even
Well,
in
the
on
talk
an
shows are going to get so much better. Everything's going to get better. Everything will get better. And maybe Saturday Night Live will be put on at 9 a.m. for the kids.
totally, and it'll be just something that they'll get through consciousness.
But I did want to finish my thought. I believe that the word demon comes
Right.
from the original daemon, the higher self. And then, you know, you got a priest in there with a crowbar demonizing your higher self, your connection to God, so that he can come in as a middleman and pick up the buck between and really not save your soul, but help condemn you, give you negative choices, negative feedback, and anti-love.
Do you think that's done too, so he could just always have this ability to be able to feed off that energy forever?
Power game. It's power. And I don't understand. I get Jesus's concept of power. He's like, you guys have no idea what power is, and it has nothing to do with your stupid little dramas.
Nothing. It's an all-knowing consciousness. And then, you know, exactly. And then you've got movies like, I know, and you know, Damien and the Omen, and but it's true on one hand because it's a middleman. And think about it. We always talk about in society eliminating the middleman. That middleman is kind of just a negative, middle of the ground energy feeder.
It's all that
And
system of control.
think about it. He doesn't want to completely kill or murder anybody, because then his lifeblood goes away. His energy source goes away. He wants to keep us caught in this constant cycle, this karmatic cycle of reincarnation, and just caught in this drama all the time. Because
I'm not sure about the death thing. I think that would like blood sacrifice, and then it would create a hungry goat, which means
oh, I agree with that.
Place where it can feed
Yeah,
on that fourth level.
right, exactly like that. But they want to try to, you know, they really are just feeding off. They like feeding off that energy.
Well, you know,
I mean?
people in the Haitian world, voodoo knows all about this too. It really didn't come from the church.
Really? Wow.
Well, heck yeah. The dark stuff's been around a lot longer than the church. I was just listening to Manly P. Hall, the Hermeticist, last night. And I heard the story from the Pymander about the awakening of Hermes and how he had his first big-ass vision. It was awesome. And he saw the light, the ineffable light, the infinity light. And then around that came this black mist, this wispy black mist. And that's like the dark negative energy. And he went on to explain what it was and what it did. And that it was the feminine aspect, the yin, on a higher level. But on the lower level here, it's distorted, and I think that's because we are in 3D reality, we are in duality consciousness to grow our souls. And a lot of us, higher beings have come back this time to help with all the energy flow. I think that most of us that have been here before at any point in history are back now to help.
Yeah.
And so we really need, for us light workers, that's what I call us, we need to rise above that darkness, understand it, have compassion for it in our brothers and sisters, but know that there is a real, not an evil, a sickness, an illness, and that can be healed with compassion and love.
And maybe that's what it's all about, is healing that. We're here at this very important time to heal that.
I
and
believe
to
I'm
get
here
her.
for Gaia mostly, my Earth Mother.
Totally. Totally. Our Earth Mother, our mothership, our star we're on, we're all part of her. She takes care of us. She don't need us, we need her.
Yeah,
And
I
we're
love
here to
her so much. I didn't have to be here today, as they said in Clerks, but man, for this woman, I will do anything.
exactly. I think that's a very simplified way to put it too, because we're back here. We're here for her. We're here to give back to what obviously she's contributed to us over probably several lifetimes, and just to the universe, being the beautiful mothership living library that she is, this paradise in this part of the galaxy. I mean, all these things that she is, and
She
that's why
grows
we're
her
here.
soul. She is the soil of Solomon's temple. Without her, we couldn't develop light bodies.
No, no, and it could even be bigger than that. This is exactly what she could have been used for, is for a school to come to for, several other incarnations of civilizations that have been here too as well.
And she's in school with us, and as we ascend as souls together, she's ascending. And what Hermes has shown me is that reality will take on more of a dream-like quality. It's like the blending of dream and reality. Everyone gets their DMT. The pineal
Totally.
gland third eye.
Well, yeah, she's working on becoming a star, I
Yeah.
mean, literally. That's kind of her next level. And you mentioned Manly P. Hall. A guy that I like to listen to a lot, Danny Wilton. I don't know if you've heard of him. He
Oh, of
quotes,
course, Danny. It's my Facebook friend. Hi, Danny Wilton. Winton.
"Hey
I don't
man, not mine, but I really vibe with that guy a lot." And
Yeah.
he's just, yeah, I like the way he puts it. And it
And
really,
he's a
we need more
starseed.
people like him out there.
Yeah.
What's that?
Danny's a starseed, too.
Well, yeah, you think?
Well, I'm just saying he's committed and
Oh,
open to the public.
totally. Yeah, totally. I know totally he is. He embodies really what it is. It goes with, it isn't even something he has to say, but it's just so true. And I mean, when you hear truth, you know truth. And
Yeah, it's so
yeah,
nice
he's
to
a good,
bring those old teachings back. He's reviving it. He's giving it the breath of life through his human vessel, and thank God for that.
in an earth reality kind of form, not a standing up on a pulpit preaching it to you.
Yeah, in a way that even a scientist could, a scientist or an artist, and those are the both sides of the brain you want to appeal to, and he appeals to both.
Exactly, to both those sides, to whoever it is, the down and the out, the up and the out, the up and the in. I mean, he has a way to put it to where all those facets can pick up on it and understand it, and it's really hard. And he can put it to you, he can put it to people like strongly, but it's really hard for anybody to argue with anything he says. I mean, somebody would really have to me, to disagree with him on most of his points. Somebody would have to really, it'd be a real stretch to even try to fake it.
Well,
Because
his principles are mostly hermetic and alchemical. They're not new principles, but he is mapping out the stars with art. It's amazing.
Yes, and that hence ties all those things together, that artist side of the brain, and this and that, and it's incredible. And I think that we're starting to see more people that are of that mentality, even instead of stuck in that, well, it's this or it's that. It's either, this extreme or that extreme. It's either, I mean, it's not just either Billy Graham or David Icke. I mean, there's a middle ground. It's not like you either have to believe in
I think it's that
David
Joel
Icke.
guy now. I think it's that Joel Osteen now.
Oh, yeah, please. I mean, yeah, that guy has me longing for Billy Graham. I mean,
Update your records, man.
exactly. Oh, yeah, he's talk about regressing. Yeah, it's
Actually, I like listening to Joel because he makes me feel good.
yeah.
I never give money or anything, but if he's a motivational speaker, that's what he does.
Yeah, there's a southern pastor I don't mind listening to. He's out of Texas. His name is John Hagee, and I've watched the guy slowly come along a little bit, and his mind is starting to open up a little bit. So I think this gap is starting to really be bridged in all facets of this. People are starting to come together and get it. And then when you simplify it and take away all the minutiae and bullshit, you realize that we are all just one, and that we really do, when you get to the core of it, we really do agree. because we're so hung up on what's said, not how it's said or why it's said. You know, we never learn to look for the undertones in anything,
I
and
went
that's the kind of,
I went to
yeah.
a Priestess school, which is critical thinking school. Show me, don't tell me. So I was actually taught how to think critically.
Through examples, not just being preached to and saying, "Do as I do, not as I say," or "Do as
Yeah.
I say, not as I do." Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think that we're learning as we go, and it's really exciting to see that people are, that bridge is starting to slowly close in, and people are realizing that we are just one. And it's not that because I said yes and you said yes, or I said vase and you said boss, you know, that it's different. It's really all the same thing. And when we take ego out of it and fear, we realize we all want the same thing. And it's never about, I mean, I've always been one, when I was growing up, I'd be watching a movie and I'd sit there and notice a pop machine in the background, or some restaurant they drove by. I was looking for all the little things like that all the time. And instead of, you know, watching what was really wasn't really going on. I mean, I was looking for all the undertones. And it's really like that. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And it's not what you do, it's how you do it, for the most part.
Well, I think also the message is getting clearer and easier. When you go back to Dion Fortune, her messages for me were very clear, but it's almost coded imagery that she uses. And then Dolores Cannon, you mentioned earlier, she was a much clearer, this is how you do it on Earth kind of person. You know, she wasn't all up in the ether with Isis the way that Dion was. And
right.
Then now we have a myriad of new people that are really showing how to connect the dots, and it's getting easier and easier and easier. It's like wisdom in a box.
Exactly. New people that are just, how do I say it? I don't want to say like, oh, they're not stars, okay, but we're talking like there's people in every, even in all these groups on Facebook, more and more people are springing up with this mentality that are actually more interesting, like I gotta say, like you, to interview than these people that we've heard a million times over. And God loved those pioneers that did that.
First wave, yes. Actually, the first wave made me feel like I wasn't crazy. I wasn't a nut. I'm watching these people do angelic language channeling with their eyes rolling in their head, and like they just got out of bed, their hair's not done. The worst state a human could put themselves in on camera. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am not that weird. And it made me feel so safe to be able to express myself.
Yeah, whereas too at the time you'd have people that would see that and go, some people would see that and go, oh, look at that nut, oh, they've got to be demon possessed. But in the reality, it was to teach us a lesson and to show us what it really was. But then the lesson came with the second wave and the third wave, and you're like you said, it gets clearer and clearer as we go.
To the point where we'll just be able to look at each other and go, you get it? And we're like, yeah, I got that.
That's happening now with frequency, and you're starting to find it all the time. I know with the people in these groups that I talk to, it's getting to the point where it was like, okay, I'd be thinking of something, and the week before they were thinking about it, or I would think about it the next week, and they thought about it the week after. But now it's happening to where, well, I had that thought earlier today. Why, I was listening to that song earlier today.
Right.
Like I know today,
it's
like a couple songs that you
closer. Yeah.
Closer, exactly. Well, Jesus, I was just listening to that earlier, and I love that too. And it's getting to the point now where it's almost happening instantly, and it's not like just on a daily basis. This thing is happening literally by the hour, by the second. And I think in one of the last full major contacts I had with the Pleiadians, they talked about that with me, that we're getting into this acceleration of this bridge of telepathy, and it's not just a situation where we're going to wake up one day and I could say in my mind, well, gee, how's the weather over there in Kentucky? And you could say back to me, oh, it's great. It doesn't just work that way. It starts with a notion of a thought, and then a thought, and then a closer thought, and then that's how we bridge this gap, and to the point where it's just all-knowing. And telepathy like that is all-knowing. You know, it's just an all-knowing thing to where what needs to even be said. You know, there's no reason to even talk with 3D blah, blah, blah language at that point.
And it's
once you get to that
and deep and symbolic. It's not the Borg at all. It is a deep, sunshiny, emotional thing. It's the power of love.
Exactly. You mean you're saying it's not the work of the devil? No.
Yeah, I don't believe in Satan.
I don't either. Yeah,
So,
if you were a Baptist minister, you could say that. You know, it's the work of the devil. Yeah. Okay. Well, good.
I had a vision with Hermes a couple of years ago where he was explaining how we do talk through telepathy. And he said, think of the dolphin, consider the dolphin. And then I saw a little wave coming off the dolphin's mind to the other dolphins. And it is vibronic, it is tone. And in fact, the things that our souls are made of, the different rays of energy from the planets and stars, we are alchemical mixes, which make us unique. And that's why we incarnate, so that we can get to the point where we have life eternal, because we are a unique being, in that sense, separate from God, but part of God.
Exactly. And don't you think that at the end of the whatever, there is no end to all this, but don't you think that creation is just all one? Okay, you know, people can say that it's a catchphrase, but how would the creator know? I mean, he had to have parts of him go out and explore and try these things and learn to come back with all this information. At the end of it all, it's such a super high consciousness that we're just all one mind. Well, it's like we really will wake up one day, whenever that is, you know, a million years from now or whenever in Earth terms, and it's just we're all just this one mind. I'm you, you are me, they are us, we are they. Yeah, I mean, and then we'll wake up and be like, wow, huh, I had all these different thoughts. All the different cells within my body were a life on their own, and a planet on their own, and an existence within their own, warring with each other on their own. But that was all me. You know,
That's pretty
it's just like,
existential.
it really is. It's like when you have a problem with somebody, think about it. When you really get caught in 3D drama, people that do, and this person, I hate them, or they did this, or I'm pissed off. Really, I mean, how much of that is you need to look no further than the mirror. It's like the analogy I give to people.
All dealt with in transpersonal psychology. I mean, there are cures out there for that, for real, right now.
Yeah, there are. I mean, it's just, you know, we are our own. It's within us. I mean, really. And I want people to understand that and not think that it's just some psycho babble. It's true. I mean, think about why, if somebody was hung up on somebody that wronged them, or they're pissed off and they're constantly pissed off all the time, well, chances are that person's not sitting there dwelling on you all the time. So why, what really is the bigger issue here? You know, what is it that you're really hung up on?
Are you still hanging out with these people? I mean, where are you getting your information from? Is this the past?
No, I'm just giving an analogy. It is the past. No, I'm not. I don't even, as far as I'm concerned, you'd have to convince me they still exist. I'm just
talking about them.
I know. I'm going to manifest them coming back in.
Just walk your walk, talk your talk.
Exactly. And I think that's basically what, you know, and really anybody that would be listening to us talk right now anyway wouldn't even vibe with that anyway. So it's really not even, it's old news. It's not even worth going there with.
Well, it's nice to have friends and have private conversations and, you know, bare your soul, so to speak.
Without judgment, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they do, fuck it, who cares?
Well, if they do, then you need new friends.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
It's very simple.
I know. Let's be 3D about it. Make it as complicated as possible, though. You know, just for the game of it.
Smoke and mirrors, my friend.
It is all smoke and token, joke and mirrors. It really is, and I think that we're beyond that too. As far as, you know, it was a school to have to learn that here, but you're right. I think we're at the point now where it's old news. It's like being in the 12th grade and talking about some shit that happened back in grade school.
And many of us have not incarnated on the planet since before the Dark Ages, because of the low vibration. It was literally impossible to incarnate here. we're back to health. And so the more we focus on the positive messages, the more we're helping.
No, I agree with you. That's a good point, and we probably haven't been here since then. So it was getting used to being back in this vibration is why it took a while to learn. But yeah, it's, once you ride a bike, you never forget. But goddamn, it's been the Dark Ages was a long time ago in Earth 3D terms. So I think we're beyond that now, and I even see it. I even see it in people that you might think are of a low vibration, and people are really starting to get it. And even the ones of a low vibration, they're getting it. They may not get why they get it yet, but I think people are starting to figure it out.
I hope so.
Well, I'm hoping so too, but I just see it slowly happening. I don't watch the news anymore. I quit watching TV 3 years ago. I was with my dad the other day. We were doing something, and I was in his truck with him, and he had some political news on, and it was the same shit I'd heard years ago. And even those people sound like they're burnt out on talking about it. You can just feel the vibe, and of course, if you're listening to it every day, it may be harder to pick up on that, like somebody that's not quite as awakened yet. But it's like you can hear it in the voice. Even they're tired of it, and they're just tired of the bullshit too. I think they're just waiting for the bottom to drop out for a good reason, and for this whole thing to, to change, which it is. It's every day is a change, especially the time we're living in now. It's picking up so quick. The days just speed by.
Like a couple weeks ago, there was a shooting, like a huge national shooting, like every day. It was insane.
Yeah, we went through that phase for a couple years, and it really started to pick up at one point. I know, and then it was played on all kinds of levels, like oh, it's doom and gloom. We got to get rid of the guns, and then some people would even go the other way. Oh, it's the cabal, and it's this, and which all of it has some relevancy, but it's like it doesn't even matter now. It's old news.
Because all that stuff is on the chessboard.
Yes.
If we are above that chessboard, and we can look down and see the pieces and laugh.
Yeah, it's like rolling a 6 and landing on chance and Monopoly. You might pick that card up and says go to jail or pay property tax, or you win $10 for second place in a beauty contest. Yeah, I think that we're at that point now where it's getting easier just to laugh at it, because it's really of no relevance. It's really getting to the point, even with some enlightened beings, where it's so beneath them, it's not even anything they could even fathom to think about.
Well, I think it's you got to go through it, But once you're educated and you understand and you're cool with it, then you move on. It's
right.
Evolving.
But don't you think sometimes for some people it's a step of knowing that, like what you're saying, knowing it, but then also there's that part of actually having to get full of that feeling and realizing it within too?
Yeah, and that's why the word gnosis with a G is such a useful word.
You think?
Well, yeah. It basically means that you've had the experience of the thing you are talking about. You have direct experience with it. You have perceived it. And that's really the definition of reality, is something you perceive. So even visions in your head, you are perceiving them. Therefore, they're real.
Yeah, they really are. Have you ever heard the old term reality of perception is reality?
Yes.
You know what? And I've heard also, when I used to work for a corporation, our marketing department they weren't the most enlightened people, but they would always use that term, perception is reality. Remember, whatever you do, perception is reality. And I don't even think that themselves that they got, yes, they were right, but at the same time, it's something you keep into perspective. It doesn't mean at the same time that you have to judge yourself and constantly monitor yourself like you're a bad person, and understand that anything you may say, if you step right when you should have stepped left, that that it was just a reality and other people would judge you on that. And then the reality at the end of the day is who gives a fuck if they did?
Well, the walking the path is all walking it for yourself, and if you make an idiotic choice and make a mistake, then you grow from it.
You do. And it's not about somebody else taking it personal, like, well, that's so and so. They did this or they did that. And it's like, okay, well, that's because they were on their growth path. They didn't, I'm going to tell you right now, they didn't make all those, they didn't make all those choices to grow and what you call bad decisions to irritate you. They didn't sit there with a blackboard out and decide that, okay, well, I'm gonna fuck this up so I can really get under somebody's skin. I mean, it's like, yeah, how dare you be a human? How dare you be here to try to learn anything? Uh,
Yeah,
it's
I don't
really, it
know.
is
I've
crazy.
been coddled these past few years, besides some trauma, but mostly coddled with the people around me believe and understand what I'm talking about most of the time. And if they don't, I don't deal with them.
Yeah, you just don't deal with them. It's not like you tell them off. You just don't. They're just not really in your life anymore, right?
Correct. And, you know, they didn't get in my life to begin with. It could be a visit, it could be a first meeting, whatever. I don't pursue those kinds of relationships.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's a good thing too, because as you can tell, it's worked out real great for humanity in the past for people to pursue that and to get hung up on something like that. But this shit is all old news that belongs to yesterday. And I think that, yeah, I think that it's just time to move on and to realize that we're all very powerful beings and we all have the same goals in our heart. You know, we all just want to be left alone, but we want to have lots of love and people in our life that care for us and we care about them and not get hung up on the petty bullshit drama. And just imagine what kind of civilization we could be, you know, when people have all come to that realization, which we're getting slowly towards. You know, it's not this thing where, oh, God, how boring that would be. What would be the point there? Well, the point there would be to progress to whatever's past this, which we have no clue. We're so ignorant to think here on Earth that we could even spell the word it, much less know what it meant. I mean, it's so, how could we even know? It'd be like saying, well, there's no other colors that could possibly exist outside of the rainbow spectrum or no other kind of a letter outside the alphabet that could be made up because it just isn't possible. But how would you know? How can you know what you don't know?
I hear
You
you.
know? Yeah.
You have
So
an internal knowing, and it's through your heart, and it resonates or it falls flat.
exactly, exactly. And I think also too keeping in mind that you don't know it all, but be confident in yourself and understand that there's just more to learn and that you never do stop learning. And when
Oh,
you
heck
keep that in
no.
mind,
I don't care how
yeah.
lofty it might be. Like, it's God's full existence. It's about learning.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just I think for me it's exciting to find out what is next after this, not some paranoid doom and gloom and
Yeah,
I'm
it's the
just
awe of
excited
a
to see
child.
what
To enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be like a child and have the awe of a child in that Alice in Wonderland kind of way.
yeah, I mean, wouldn't think about it this, wouldn't it be nice to be shown something you'd never seen before or thought of, you know what I mean?
It
Wouldn't
is
isn't that an
often
exciting thought?
for me.
For me too. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, exactly. I want to hear something that not only have I never heard before, but it's so coolly wild that I never even could have fathomed any facet of it.
exactly, because it's an experience you're having in the moment. It's an adventure and a journey you've never been on before, and it's happening in real time.
Yeah, and bring them on. I really, yeah, exactly. And I think humanity's moving towards that direction. People want something like that. They want to have their mind open and learn more and find out what's next on the journey. And for me to even sit here and dwell on it, even think about what it could be, is really foolish because there's no way to put it into words.
Oh, I
You
really
won't.
encourage that kind of thinking because it leads to creativity. And it really, if you ask the question, if you send the energy out, it's going to come back. So, yes,
Yeah.
please imagine, think,
I mean,
dream.
dream what it could be.
Yeah,
Dream.
be your
At
own
the same
child
time,
and
don't
dream.
dream that it's great. Don't beat yourself up and worry about the doom and gloom because
Well, if you
I
think
mean,
of God as a loving God, then that's step one. If you can get to that one step, God loves me. If you can get there, then all the beauty will unfold from that seed.
Yes, and here's the key: with God loves you with no judgment. And it's really, yeah, like a being like a being of that kind of level and love could even fathom what judgment was
Yeah,
anymore.
love has no judgment. That's a human fallacy. And
I
we
mean,
are so often
yeah.
projecting our sicknesses upon the perfected one.
Yeah, how could something pure love and all knowing possibly have even the thought of judgment in his realm or vocabulary? I mean,
Only in lower vibration, only in 3D, only in this game.
yes. Only in 3D and with some cheap 1950s 3D glasses from a movie theater on, with one lens red and one lens blue.
I wonder,
Watching
could
some
you
movie.
bring something up? Have you ever heard of a substance that's like the blob, this black goo? And Hermes would call it the prima materia, the stuff everything's made of. But I think maybe the starseeds have a different idea about this black goo, blobby darkness thing. Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I've heard it put that way. And I wonder if it could be the substance that is, maybe truly what it is stardust.
Ah,
That's possible. It's all that is. It's the material that makes up everything, and it could really be stardust. And because it's a black material doesn't mean it's not. I mean, it doesn't mean that stardust is some blue or some really cool like rainbow type color. I mean, it really could be what we're trying to think of as stardust. That's what he's meaning. I don't know, but that might be something for you
well,
to
I
hit him
want
up with.
to throw a vision at you that I had because you're coming from a totally different perspective that I haven't studied before. So I want your
Yeah.
opinion on these visions I have that don't make sense to me from my perspectives. I had,
Okay.
okay, uh, I was above the planet on an astral plane, but it was very realistic. So it was more like I was watching what was happening more on a level where you might see at. And I saw Obama's face, and I saw fracking all over the United States, and I saw oil being extracted, and this black oil goo on this other level is the prima materia. Somehow it is the stuff. And it was being sent up to this level. It was being stolen, stolen from Earth, and taken off planets. And what I did, I don't know if it was instinct or if I was just experiencing it, I made a staircase to heaven of this black goo, and I basically went and told. So does that make any sense?
Yeah, you know what? It really does in one realm because we know that evil beings, whatever you want to call them, the Anunnaki, whatever, reptilians, put a name on it, we know that something like that of self-agenda purposes through the history of Earth has came here to suck our resources, whether it's gold, whether it is oil like that, okay, right? But at the same
Somehow
time,
oil equates to blood, like the blood life of the planet.
right, but then maybe somebody like you was using that life in a positive way to make that ladder. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
the stairway. I
Is
had to go up, and I needed some kind of material to make it with. And I figured if I don't know why Obama's face was on it, but I don't know why he would represent that because it's a worldly, global situation.
well,
You know,
because the United
our
States,
president.
though, you got to understand this, and Barbara Marciniak talked about this in Bringers of the Dawn. America is the yin and the yang of this planet. This is where all the major, there's star seeds, and certainly there's more enlightened consciousness areas of Earth per se, like maybe Scandinavia, but America is where the movers and shakers are, okay? Everything runs out of America here, the new Atlantis, everything is, and he happens to be the face of America right now, and you can take him for what it's worth. He's really, he has no more control than a guy selling pencils, but there's a part of him, like all of us, where it's a yin and a yang. He could be this angelic savior, he could be this reptilian, he could be both, but you using that to make that ladder, right? I mean, everything is a yin and a yang here. You're using that for the purpose that it was to get in touch with that source of all that is, whereas somebody that doesn't get it at all completely, or beings, they're just going to use it and use it up and use it up and use it up, and They don't get it. It's a yin and a yang effect. It's like this. Every government type you could ever think of on Earth, whether it's communism, capitalism, socialism, any kind of ism, right? If human greed didn't exist and people had a more loving attitude, all of those would be a perfect fucking government. But at the same time, on that level, there'd be no need for any kind of government like that if we were of that level. But it's what it's used for. You know what I mean?
It's not necessarily humanity's greed. It's the greed of this dark mist.
Yes, this archonic control from the fourth dimensional, that
Right.
first astral etheric plane.
Yeah.
That maybe they're stuck there, and maybe part of these timelines coming together, and why they're fighting it so much is that it's to that level right there is going to go away. You
I know the answer to this question. I know it. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Let me explain. Hermes showed me planet Earth, and he showed me the ghost level. Let's just call it the ghost level. Astral.
Okay.
It's the fourth level. And in that, he, right above that, requires and choirs of angels, not true angelic archangels, but people with wings. Okay, anti-ghost, the non-ghost, the one that has a host within. So,
host with the most.
Yeah. So the angelic people were coming down toward us, and the lower level of the astral was also coming down toward the earth, all of this ascending towards the earth, closer and closer, until it encased. And that would have been, if there is 3 days of darkness, that's what's going to cause it. But this aspect of all the souls of all the lives that have ever been on the planet, who have ever been in the book of life, are going to merge with themselves, and they will either be light beings or dust beings. And I don't know what happens to the dust.
The dust, oh my God, this is something that my co-host Michelle Walling has been talking about too, that this is probably what's going to go down, what you're just saying. It's really riveting for me to hear you talk about this, because it kind of ties into what she says, and we don't know what's going to happen to that dust. What is going to happen to that dust? Will it cease to exist? Probably. It'll probably have to go back into the cosmos. It can't completely go away because everything is energy, but maybe then it's something that has to be completely reformulated by the guides or the angels or whatever, and it has to be made into something new, or it may just be the materialization of a soul, and then at that point, that dust has got to be used to make something else or to try to rebuild.
Well, I also know a little bit of that too. Some of the dust, as we say, let's say darkness, let's say the color black. We haven't been able to paint with the color black in the astral before, and I think it's really going to boost our art and creations. So as the levels rise on Earth, our vibration rises, she rises, we come into the fifth dimension. And that means fifth dimension, full waking consciousness. And there's been no movie that really touches that realm of reality.
None. Good point.
None. Avatar, maybe, but that doesn't touch on the magic of it.
Yeah, and that might be even the closest ever, and still, that's a complete. That's only touching. That's only scratching. That's only getting to the letter A of learning the alphabet.
Yeah, so there's a reason for the dark matter even in the higher realms, because without differentiation, there is no individuality. So it will help us individualize ourselves more, thus becoming more God-like, thus the big one God becoming an even bigger one-er God.
Yeah. Oh my God, totally, exactly. And it's like, this is a whole nother facet to it that we've got to consider. It's a good point. Totally.
We're all in this together.
We are, whether we're in this incarnation, in this body, in whether we're stardust, whatever we are, whether we're a planet of a civilization that looks like little dots, beings that look like little dots, and all the things that Dolores Cannon described, that they're everything you could ever imagine. There's beings that look like out there, and so, but we're all one at the end of the day. So all this is relevant. And we just even talking, when you mentioned that, it just makes me excited, because I realize that we're on the verge of learning something new, but then it doesn't even begin there, much less stop. This
Oh yeah,
stuff is,
it's the very tip
yeah.
of the iceberg for sure.
Yeah, it's so mind-boggling and so yet all-knowing at the same time. It gets to the point where it's like, you know, you just don't want to even talk about it. Just let it be, and it is, and it's not even anything that can be explained. It's just something that's got to be felt out, and you know, and go from there, and see where we go. You know, try to
Yeah, I
use as
can't
little.
really anticipate anything beyond that point. That point is so epic and omnipresent in my mind.
Yeah, and what's really exciting is I can't really either. I'll let my mind go there and think, okay, well, that's probably just the beginning. It's like, oh, that's exciting, and then what past that, and what past that? But I can't even think about that right now because that would be so epic that, yeah, it's all really good food for thought, and I
Yeah.
think it's reality. And you start talking to more people that you meet, like we met today and we're talking, and then people that I've met and talked to and that you talk to, and it's like our stories are just starting to mesh, and then when we share our common experiences we realize that, well, it was all for the same goal actually, and within those different experiences we had a lot of similarities, you
Yeah, I think
know.
it's a very excellent point that we did just meet today. We have not pre-planned this, and it's as if we have known each other.
Totally, yeah. I mean, I think that that's important to stress, not to like belabor the point, but I mean, exactly. Um, I posted something in a group, you liked it, I invited you to be a friend, and then, we clicked on some of the same music we liked,
We
and we got to
bonded
talk.
through music, my friend. Yes.
Exactly. I mean, so all this stuff happened real quick, and then to top all that off, we got to talking, and I mentioned the shows and this and that, and we were talking about some of the different contactees we knew of and that we both liked, and then all of a sudden, here we are, and not even. I mean, it's 3:06 right now on the West Coast. I imagine it's probably 6:06 where you're at in illusionary time in the
Yes,
in
it
the
is
Eastern
Venus of
zone.
Venus.
I did not even know in this incarnation until reconnecting with you. I did not even know that you existed in, I don't know, for sure for sure 5 hours ago.
Yeah.
5 hours ago, I did not even know you existed.
Well, I definitely knew of in 5D. I mean, that's wow.
Well, yeah, but as an individual like us, I mean, I had no clue who
Yeah.
we each other. Yeah, exactly. Isn't that weird?
But
And
I've
so,
seen your little sun moon for the past couple of days, your little icon.
well, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's another weird story how I came up with that, because I created Pleiadian Express Productions on a whim one night, and then I needed something to use as a logo, and I couldn't figure out what the hell I was going to use. Nothing online made sense, and I was in the bathroom, and I was sitting there, peeing, and I was thinking to myself, what could I use? What could I use for that? And then I turned around and I had this big moon type thing disc on my wall that I've had in the bathroom forever, and I forgot I even had it up there. And I'm like, look, that would be a good thing to use. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so that happened, and I used that as an icon, and I'm like, cool. And then, yeah, it's just weird. And you've been seeing that around all of a sudden for the last couple of days, not even thinking really thing of it. But I bet if you go back and think about it, it's like, huh, there was a reason why that was planted in your head, why you were seeing that.
Oh, totally. I love synchronicity events. Synchrotastic.
It's like when I first heard of the Pleiadians that night 3 years ago in March. I had a bad migraine, had to just went and laid down. We had company in town. I had to excuse myself and go to bed early on a Friday night. I was into politics at the time, and I would listen to the radio all the time to go to bed. And the station I used to listen to out of San Francisco, I couldn't pick it up, and so I had to have Coast to Coast on. And they were talking about some story in the 50s about the Greys and technology, and then the Pleiadian name got mentioned, brought up, just in CAD. The story wasn't even about them, but their name got brought up, right? And something hit me about that name. I'm like, huh. First of all, I thought, well, why in the hell haven't I ever heard of them before? Who?
Right.
And didn't think much of it. And the next night, you know, I saw this crazy starship type thing in the sky. But then after that, I just all of a sudden got this urge to start looking up shit about them, just
Yeah,
start looking up stories, and it just resonated with me. And now that I look back on it, is that wasn't nothing why that name stuck out to me. You know what I mean?
of course.
There
So
was,
there are key codes for us.
yeah, and you don't, excuse me, you don't hear about them till you're ready.
I believe
It,
that a lot of the times our path in the life, our play in the life with our ego, has key codes where even a stranger on the street can say a series of words to you, and something just clicks and turns on, you know, your stuff.
we talked about that with the music earlier, and we both
Yeah.
agreed on that. Like I had talked to you about my guides telling me about the Pleiadians infusing psychedelic rock and the hippie trippy colors, and then in the 70s bringing on the disco and the colors of that, and kind of a calming effect after the turbulent 60s. And even so far as to, you know, even with some of the early punk rock, grunge, whatever it is, different music, different vibrational codes that hit you.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's so weird. Some of the songs that have really activated me will be like songs from the late 70s or early 80s that I heard as a kid, and you know, and I know all music, but a lot of them are songs that were popular at the time, but then they don't get a lot of play on oldies radio. There's songs that in the US you'll never hear a lot on oldies radio. It's like they were big at the time and then just pushed to the side. And
Yep.
it's like I almost wonder if, and you know, and it doesn't matter what genre, I'm not talking about certain genre music, but I can probably, you know, if I sat down and think about it, 10 to 15 songs like that, pretty big in their time for a while, for when they had hit the top 40, but they're not ones that you hear all the time in the stereotype of an oldie station. You know, they
Exactly.
always become these forgotten.
I
And
have
I've
a
talked to
story about that if you'll let me tell it.
go ahead, I'd love to hear it, yes.
Okay. This was during one of my first awakenings after I turned 30. And so when I say awakenings, I was in a higher state of consciousness that I was definitely not used to.
Okay.
I began hearing music in my head as if I had an iPod in my head, literally. Now, I thought, wow, this is crazy, but I was in such a high loving vibration that I went with it. The fear wasn't really there. It was like, oh my God, this is a miracle. I am a walking, talking miracle. I can't believe this. It was elation. But I had a visitation, a meditation visitation, and Buddha said to me, happy birthday, happy 30th birthday. I put a record player in your head so that you can hear, you know, the DJ, so to speak. And later, I heard voices saying to me, if we can get you to believe that God is your DJ for just one day, we can change the world. And that blew me away.
Yeah.
So the songs were like, your love is lifting me higher. I believe in miracles. Where are you from, you sexy thing?
Oh my God, me too. Both those songs too to me are part of are me too, exactly. And I agree with what you just said. It resonated. I've never had anybody tell me that in my mind, but it's true. And we agree on the songs. Those are two songs that vibe with me like that too, as well as the other two we were talking about earlier, Lunatic Fringe and especially Connected by Stereo MCs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, totally, totally. And it's just even more exciting because these are songs that both have done that for us. Other people have had other songs do that to them, and agree with me because they've had other songs vibe with them like this. But you and I mean, exactly. Where Are You From, You Sexy Thing, or that was by Hot Chocolate?
I don't remember.
It's a 70s disco song. I Believe in Miracles.
Oh, yeah, and I
Yeah,
get
exactly.
Donna
Totally.
Summer.
Oh yeah, totally, totally. Like hot stuff. Yeah, exactly. More of her 70s stuff,
Yeah.
not so much her. What's that?
On the radio.
On the radio. Yeah, oh totally.
And the whole soundtrack of Hair, and the whole soundtrack of
Oh,
Jesus Christ
totally.
Superstar.
Totally. 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 Oh,
You're
yeah.
hearing really funky, some very old Pink Floyd.
Totally, totally, Pink Floyd, totally, exactly, and it vibes with you, and it's something in the vibrational code of the music that
And Led
activates it.
Zeppelin was very out about their hermitage, them being hermits. Led Zeppelin reading Kashmir, which is huge messages in Kashmir, and of course the classic Stairway to Heaven. And there's a
Yeah,
lady who
all
shows white light
missing
and
out
wants to
top.
glow. I mean, they're talking about the goddess. They're so unveiled. That bless their hearts.
Bless their hearts. Yeah, on a little side note about Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, for every year that they were out in Europe, 62 to 69, number one selling band in Europe record wise. Well, their last year in 1970, they were number two. Guess who was number one? Led Zeppelin. So the only year the
Oh, was it
Beatles as a
Zeppelin?
major.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the only year the Beatles weren't number one selling in Europe, their last year together, Zeppelin, and that kind of typified where music was going at that
It sure
point.
did. Look at that. They
They,
handed the baton over. It's like, here you go, guys. We've got
well, they did.
solo careers.
Well, and about 4 years before that, there's a story when Black Sabbath was getting going. Ozzy was actually in a meeting with Robert Plant and Page Zeppelin,
Right.
and the bands were together. And they were all playing Beatles shit in clubs, and they were like, they loved the Beatles, but Ozzy's like, we got to figure something else out, you guys, or we're not. Even telling these other bands that were like him, like Zeppelin, getting going, that we've got to come up with a new sound. It's just time to let this thing. And as the 60s turned into the 70s, you saw more of the electric thing starting to intensify, and things change. And even
We got
John
glam
Lennon said if the
rock.
Beatles,
Let's not leave glam rock out, and T-Rex,
yeah,
and we got Alice Cooper, the first real gothic rock and roll star.
oh yeah, he was doing it before. He was doing it before Marilyn. People would give Marilyn Manson credit for a lot of shit, but Alice Cooper was doing it way before then. Was doing that extreme shit, and he was the original. You know,
Marilyn is a smart person,
totally.
but he is not in touch with his heart or loving himself or any of that. He is very, sick. Poor Marilyn. Poor Brian
Didn't have
Warner.
the starseed consciousness. Doesn't have the starseed consciousness that it
No,
did an
but
Alice
Jesus
Cooper
Christ
type.
Superstar,
And it,
what was it? Jesus Antichrist Superstar was like, he could have gone there. He could have healed himself. All the psychological drama in that is very healing if you listen to it and you know it and you understand it. I mean, it helped me know my dark side and it helped me heal it.
yeah, Nine Inch Nails did that for me a little bit. It just goes to show you
And
there's
Mr. Reznor,
reincarnation.
free.
But he's yeah, Trent Reznor's a Pleiadian contactee, big
Is he
time. I mean,
really?
totally, yes.
I just know he's a
Part
Taurus. Hey,
well,
man,
Taurus is a
where
Pleiadian
is
sign.
Stardust from? Where is David Bowie from? That's what I want to know. Is he a Syrian? Or is
He
he just...
might be. His music activated me.
I know. I
Yeah.
mean, was an
My
alien
favorite song by him.
persona.
Totally. My favorite song by him that activates me is Surfeit City.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like all his music, even his 80s jams like Let's Dance and stuff, but I like more of his 70s stuff. But yeah, all those bands, Deep Purple, I mean,
Have you heard his version where he says there's a starman waiting in the sky? He wants to come and meet us, but he thinks he'll blow our minds.
yeah, but I'm not sure what song that's from. Is that from yeah, it's called Starman.
It's when he was Ziggy.
When he was Ziggy?
Yeah.
Ziggy Stardust?
Yes.
Yes. He could have been Iggy Pop too, but I don't think so.
What do you mean?
No, I'm kidding. I'm just joking. I'm just talking to talk right now.
Oh, okay. Well, don't do that.
Oh, I know. It's a Pleiadian thing, but it just goes to show you that consciousness comes in all kinds of forms. You could have, and there's another thing with some of this music, right? I swear to God, with some of these songs like that I vibe with, okay, and people can say, well, I have this weird connection with some of them, and people can say, well, it's just because when you were little you heard it on the radio all the time. It's not just that. I almost feel like some of this music, some of these songs were also done in another time before too. And I don't mean like
Another
dying.
dimension. Let's get out of time, Chronos, that old Saturny salty thing. Don't worry about that. That's just a
Exactly. Well, on another planet, on another dimension, whether I heard some of this shit, I think I heard in Atlantis and Lemuria when I was
there you
here.
go. There you
I
go.
really do. In fact, I know I did. I've got about 13 songs that I'm sure I did. And it's funny because they all range from about a 6-year period before I was born till a 6-year period after I was born. And I
Yeah.
feel like I wasn't really fully incarnated here till I was 6 years old. And that's another story I'll get into another time. But,
Well, you
and
remember
then,
when Superman was coming from the other planet that he had to go through all these layers,
uh-huh,
here. And
right.
all these layers had radio waves and all of that. You came into the vibration, and the music is also a vibration.
Wow, that's a good way to look at it too.
And
So
that's
it
why
just,
I resonate with 1974. I say Wonder Woman. I'm the year of Wonder Woman. That's when she came out, and that's when I came out.
and I resonate like that with the year 1975 too. Big time. I always had this vibe with a song that was #1 on the charts when I was born, and I never knew that it was till years later that when somebody had said it, One of These Nights by the Eagles.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, well, I always vibed with that song like big time. And then I heard about 10 years ago that it was #1 on the charts the month that I was, well, and at the week at the time when I was born, but for about a month it was #1 on the charts. And I'm like, And I vibe with 75 a lot as a Pleiadian incarnate. It's the first year that Billy Meyer had his contact with Semyasi. All these things that kind of happened in 75. And so like you do with 74, right? The little things that come out in 74, Wonder Woman, things
Steve
like
Miller
that. I
Band.
mean, there's a reason. Steve Miller Band, all through the 70s. Yeah, totally. Well, there's a big, gee, I wonder what star system he's from. Steve Miller to me, it epitomizes a Pleiadian almost.
Really?
Totally.
Because Hermes says that's his favorite band right now.
Exactly. Well, I mean, the Sirians and Pleiadians are closely related, big time. And so it could be either or, but we know that it's probably from the stars.
Of
It's
course.
like it's like ELO. I was going to say a point earlier. John Lennon had told the lead singer of ELO, Jeff Lynne, that if we would have stayed together for 10 more years, being the Beatles and played through the 70s, we would have been just like you guys. And I thought, there could be no bigger compliment than to be told that. You know what I mean? Exactly. And for him to say that, it had to be some consciousness coming in. And it's true because music evolved. And then this is what I think too. Let me throw you this, and a lot of starseeds agree with me on this. The cabal kind of tightened control. You could start seeing the writing on the wall about late 79, but it really didn't completely take control till about late 84. And so in that 5-year period, but we really missed the boat in the 70s. But things really changed. That cabal corporate control, and people will go, oh, the 80s great. Okay, the 80s did have some cool pop culture, a lot of great shit too, but it was really for us that lived it, it was really a somber time. And because things had changed. And like I really think like late 79 things started changing. You could see the writing on the wall. Everything was still kind of cool till about late 84. And then by about late 84, the cabal really, the things were really ramped up as far as control wise. And a lot of those movies from the 70s, I mean, yes, Star Wars, yes, Close Encounters, but even the low budget sci-fi films, they really told the tale about what was coming, whether it was Rollerball with James Caan, Soylent Green, THX 1138. These movies told a lot to us, and so did the
Fahrenheit.
music.
Fahrenheit 451.
Yes, all these clues, right? So,
Even the
and then
Stepford Wives. I mean, Valley of the Dolls with all the pills. I mean, it was.
totally right there in front of you. And it's like
Yeah.
innately you knew that, seeing it at the time, and then now you realize it's the case, and these things were all there, giving us a clue. And then too, like I really feel like a lot of these futuristic movies from when I was little, I really think that too, a lot of them were talking about, it's almost like what was happening at the end of Atlantis and Lemuria. The things that were going on then and the corporate control, because we'd already been through that before. Because obviously they wouldn't have been warning about us about something to come, right? Unless they had known that this is what had happened before in some other dimension.
I believe that the collective consciousness being the mind, that we live in the mind of God, I think of the mental universe from a Kabbalion perspective, these things will come up whether they are planned or not. Like Neo is a glitch in the Matrix, which you could say Buddha is a glitch in the Matrix, Christ is a glitch in the Matrix. So, you know, it's all relative to the story.
Well, yeah, big time. And it's right there. And it's funny that the cliche hindsight is 2020, right? Because now looking back on it too, it's like you realize, and then you realize, God, that was true. And then you realize too that innately you knew it then too.
Yeah, and now there's like modern movies like Prometheus and crap that are promoting transhumanism. You know, and that's where we're going. It's like, no, that's where the media machine is going. That is not where consciousness is going. It's a machine. It's the Industrial Revolution, and it's just the same. That was the seed, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Have you seen that?
It will burst. It's non-sustainable. It is illusion.
Exactly. I've never seen Prometheus, but the funny thing about that is I quit watching TV about 3 years ago, and my ex-wife and I, that I got a divorce from about 2 years ago, right? The last movie we ever rented together was Prometheus, and so much shit went wrong that night. It was like the last night we were ever together. We never ended up watching that movie.
Wow.
And it's like, but innately I knew, like innately I knew what it was about. I mean, there's nothing, I don't need to watch it because I know, like what you just told me about it, right? I knew that, and then that's exactly what it's about.
Well, I had hope for it, and I had hope for the Elysium, and you know, all of that. And there's a Johnny Depp movie where that's coming out where he's got some big machine on his head, and they're just promoting that like crazy. If it is not the future of our humanity.
You know, he's going to do his typical role he always does. Yeah, exactly. I grew up watching him on 21 Jump Street, and I like that show, right? But then, and he's a good actor, okay, granted, but his roles, it's funny, they're all such diverse roles, but it's all the same fucking thing. I don't care whether it's Lemony Snicket or Pirates of the Caribbean or Edward Scissorhands, right? It gets old after a while because it's always this typecast, trippy, weird character, and I could never realize why they don't they just give him why don't they do a token action kind of cop movie with him? Because that's what he started out at doing on TV, and he was good in that serious kind of role, and I could never figure out. And so what you're telling me now, I had no idea he has another movie coming out, and it sounds like the same goddamn thing. I mean, I'm so jaded by his movies that, you know, I'm just going to assume that it is like that. He's got a machine on his head or whatever he's doing. I mean,
yeah, it's something about transhumanism. And
of course,
machine, and which is anti-nature.
Oh yeah, exactly. So there's nothing he could do that would impress me, except unless he did something basic like an action cop or something. Which that's kind of funny I'd say that, but his movies are so they're different, but yet they're all the same kind of thing. It's all that same kind of eccentric, trippy, weird person. No matter what, it's the same soul. It's like it's the same soul doing different things, but it's the same, you know?
He's not as bad as Jack Nicholson.
No. Yeah, well, yeah.
He pulled off in that matter for me. I could believe that, especially when he went into the Jabberwocky and he got all serious and like ancestral and rawr. That was good.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I'm not trying to judge anybody or any actor, but at the same time, you know, I mean, I don't know. That's probably why I quit watching TV, though, you know, and quit watching. And that's hard for me to say because I used to be the biggest TV addict there is, but it just doesn't vibe with me anymore. And some people it does, and that's cool. I mean, I can't watch.
I still love being entertained me, but the things on television are not. I mean, really, a lot of it is pointing and laughing at poor people, ignorant people. It's cruel.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I told my mom I was about 12 years old. It was about in 1987. I told my mom I was a big TV addict, and I had the TV guide memorized. Most people younger than us won't even know it. They'll be, well, what's a TV guide? But I told her, I said, Mom, listen to me. I'm gonna tell you right now, they're gonna run out of ideas for sitcoms and dramas. They're gonna start filming people at home. They're going to
Yeah.
start filming people just going to work. Like, it's just going to show people. And lo and behold, of course, the late 90s rolled around and they came out with Survivor, which was kind of the first. Well, they had Road Rules and stuff on MTV, but these
MTV's Roll
reality
Roll, where they're all roommates.
Right. Those were the first. Right. Those were the first of the first wave of them. And then, God knows everything's out now. But I remember telling my mom 10 years before anything came out, I said, Mom, they're just going to run out of ideas and they're going to start filming people at, just joking. And she's like laughing about it. And I did too. I said, they're going to start filming people just sitting around the house and doing their life. And lo and behold,
Yeah, you're right.
they sure as hell did, because you could tell the trend.
When we were little, it was called Real People. It's on YouTube.
Oh, totally. I know it. Yeah, the only episode I really remember of it, right, is they were filming these people at a bar. They had a belly bumping contest. These guys were drinking beers and bumping guts. But no, we watch it all the time. I can see the hosts. I can see the set. Yeah, totally. We used to watch it all the damn time,
Yeah, and that was that. That's what that first incarnation, I think, at least in my experience, came from.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because it was the first type of thing like that. You're right. It wasn't your stereotypical talk show or on candid camera. That would have been one in the 70s to kind of show people. But and even then, to pick up on it, man, those were so few and far between.
Candid camera, they have a new one, and it is cruel and mean. it's on.
Yeah, those were fun-loving back then. Now it's probably they've got to top anything, so it's something that lacks any creativity. Yet it's cruel and outrageous, but yet in reality it lacks any creativity of any. Yeah. It's just like I compare it to watching in the late 90s, and he was only funny for a while. Tom Green came on MTV, right? And some of the shit he would do was just hilarious, right? And then, of course, Jackass came on, and I'm not judging anybody for liking it, but Jackass is like, okay, it's like you can be funny and creative, and then you can just be stupid and just go jump in a sewer.
It's self-titled, so it is what it is.
It is, yeah, let's go jump in a sewer, okay? That's funny once. So I looked at it like that. They had Tom Green come out and they had to top that.
Be a jackass.
Yeah, and blowing himself up and stuff, and it wasn't my type of but I don't judge anybody for liking it, but I saw the trend. Of course, you always got to top the next one, and so I just thought that's what it was. They were trying to top Tom Green, but yet with no creativity.
Well, there's a lot of hurt yourself stuff going on around right now, and it has been for years now, but the momentum is building. I just saw there's Team Wake 'em Up on YouTube, and his other channel is Review Manify. Sorry, I'm actually thinking of someone else. This is by Mark Dice. You know who Mark Dice is? Everybody knows Mark Dice, right?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
He always talks about the Illuminati and Hollywood.
Yes.
He was saying that Lorena Del Rey, the girl that sang the song for the Maleficent movie, was a death merchant, that she was basically said, in a quote, "I wish I was dead already," and just really glamorizing death. And she got in trouble with Kurt Cobain's daughter, Frances Bean. She basically tweeted at her and said, "Hey, my dad's death was not glamorous, and I will never know my dad. Thank you very much." And, basically gave her what for.
Is that Courtney Love's daughter?
Yeah. And Kurt.
Oh, she didn't realize her mom killed their dad, though, of course, so that's a whole other story, though, too. That's starting to come out, but I figured that the day it happened when I heard it on the radio.
Don't you see the Sid and Nancy in them? Don't you see that aspect of them?
I tell everybody that all the time. I use the same analogy. Yoko with John, Sid and Nancy, and it's not even that it was necessarily done on purpose. It was basically baited to do it. I know with Yoko, I'm sure that
personal information about Yoko and John. I talked to John. I love John. John loves me, and that was, in a higher sense, a guru with a student.
Right.
She was royalty,
Yeah. It wasn't like Sid and Nancy and Kurt and Kurt.
No, it was not.
Same thing. Same thing. Both given a hot hit of dope to overdose.
They were like Jesus and Mary for the hippies.
Totally. totally. Whereas the other two were just kind of wastoids and whatever. I'm
Well,
not
I
judging, but
a lot of that punk rock was manufactured as a propaganda against violence. You know, get rid of your guns, get rid of your baseball bats. You're just punk rocking anarchists. And anarchy is actually an awesome idea without government, to have no masters. But that the point in the movie where they go to the methadone clinic, the man is handing him the methadone and said, "You need to get off this stuff. You could be selling healthy anarchy. You could be changing the world, but you're
right.
fueled by this demon, this sickness." So
Yes.
I think punk rock, a lot of it was that got popular, was manufactured to bring in the violent aspect. And even now today, I see them trying to make gothic violent, which it will never be, could never be. It's totally against
They
its
did
nature. It is feminine in nature. So there's no possible way. What?
counter control opposition. It was being done in this. It was being done in the '60s with the hippie movement too. Some of the bands were not authentic; they were manufactured and studio made. And a real telltale. You speak of punk rock. Billy Idol, and I posted even every now and then in the group. Billy Idol did an interview in '77 when he was the lead singer of Generation X, and man, the consciousness just that flowed through that kid is incredible. I'll have to send you the link to the interview because it's great. It's just great. It's better than, and of course, the same year the Sex Pistols did one where they were a bunch of drunk idiots on a British show that didn't get censored and just being stupid. But Billy Idol blew me away in this interview. It was just, it was incredible, and it was in '77 when Generation X was just coming about, and just his questions that he answered were just so poignant and on, and it was incredible. And then you had a band like the Sex Pistols that was probably the first Illuminati prototype to be given a bunch, just be given a bunch of dope to get burned out and spurnt out, and
Well, I'll tell you, Kate Bush was, the highest paid singer in England. She won a lot of awards, but she's never been truly popular because she's philosophical in her songs. She's actually giving the Dharma. She's teaching in her songs. And, I think that her teachings are actually above the level of Led Zeppelin. And it's just such a small, concentrated audience that actually have the eyes and ears to get it.
Yeah, and everything's so corporate now that a band like, nowadays if a band was trying to come up like a Zeppelin, right, that was out of a garage or something like they were and Sabbath was in that era, you're not going to get even a break in the business because things are controlled now and anybody can sound good with the right equipment. Well, not sound good, but they can handpick people. And there's a lot of great garage bands out there that you'll never even ever, ever, ever hear of. And it's been like that for 20 years, and it's been a slow process, and it's so true. And I'm hoping that there will be a revival at one point when things change. People just get pissed off, and it won't even be about that anymore, but everybody will get a chance to be heard. But until that happens, until it just crumbles, that's where we're at. The days of the super groups have been long over since, we were barely out of high school when it was ending. So it's been, there's a few of this modern era that have came around, but even in the big band eras, they would have been about a middle of the road average okay band. It's the days of the supergroups belting out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits a year for 10 years or over. It just isn't how it's done anymore. For one, and in the talent level that gets to that position isn't up to par to be able to do that even.
And then the conspiracy theory that you actually have to sell your soul to Satan and sign in blood, as we've seen on YouTube, the compilation videos of star after star after star repeating that they had sold their soul to Satan, and that's why they were successful.
Exactly, and you know what? Some of this is all kind of true, but there's so many intricacies that go along with it. It isn't just that fucking simple. You get
I
into
think it's pretty simple to belong to a secret society.
I do too, but as far as or to belong to one, but then how about to get sucked into one? Like a
Well, no,
lot of
I'm
these
saying
people
it's all
suck in.
sucked in. Nobody actually says, "Oh, I see the future, and I'm going to volunteer anyway." Nobody does that. It's all trickery.
Nobody does. No, I mean, you have those controllers, the few of them that are out there that are even way above any world leader in the country, right? That are all with those families that have been ingrained in it. But the people in our pop culture that we think of that get into it, right, they get sucked in. It's not, and then they're, before they know it, they're in a position where they're just stuck and they're there. But it's not like they were born into that scenario now, right?
But I believe that Beyonce has gone to the dark side, and I believe I've seen, videos of her when she was young, when she was a kid. I see that star stuff in her.
I did
And
too, with Destiny's Child and shit. I really liked them. I
yeah,
was excited to see them because I thought they had a good flow, and it reminded me of the female bands I'd seen before, the Supremes and
but now
things
she's
like
not even
that.
writing her own songs.
Yeah,
Ugh. She's no Tina
well, I
Turner,
don't
I'll tell you
know, or Diana Ross. No, she's definitely not. But I saw them come around, and it's like TLC had come around right before them. But I saw Destiny's Child come out, and I thought, God, these girls are really good,
that.
and
Yeah.
they're great. And then, well, then now it is what it is. But I had the same vibe too from them, but they were just the wrong time, wrong era, I guess. If you want to look at it that way.
Well, I think I can see the corruption happening, as even you could track it when she stopped writing her own songs.
Well, yeah, and they seduce them like that to get them to that point at first, whether it's by money, drugs, fame, promises, whatever, a combination of it all, I'm sure.
Well, I think that there's
And
also hypnosis and possession and all those other
yeah,
elements to it. Mind control.
exactly. It goes that deep, and it starts with all these little things to get you going down that path of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and in
Because
everything, like it's that instant karma. You make a choice in every moment. You see the black, you see the white, and you choose in every moment.
yeah, I was making that analogy earlier because one of the bands, I was really into gangster rap in the late 80s when it first came out, and NWA is finally doing a movie that I actually predicted 15 years ago, and the name of it, that they would. But that initial phase of that rap that came out to raise the consciousness, Public
Yeah.
Enemy, Ice-T, NWA, right? But then after you get to about the early to mid 90s, right, it got to the point where that story had already been told to raise the consciousness. So thus at that point it was all studio. Not saying there wasn't good ones that came out after that, but it had all been done before. And the grip that had over that industry, the people didn't have the power anymore. The groups didn't have that kind of power anymore to kind of fight for their own rights and make their own decisions. It was done, and it already had served its purpose. So it's like it was like telling the same old story again and again and again, for one, and two, the grip was already put tightly down on the business of that genre. So, and that happens.
Well, something that's tripping me out about Prince, the purple one, he, did all that slave stuff and don't call me Prince, I'm a symbol now for legal reasons and all of that against his record company. And then, you couldn't find Prince on the internet anywhere. He's just that kind of guy. And then, just like last week, Prince is on Vimeo. What the heck?
Oh, is he back? Because I was trying to listen to 1999 not too long ago. Huh. We couldn't find it. Huh. That's weird. So
is trying to make a strong arm mafia kind of move to get all the labels to sign up under Vimeo under a paid fee, subscription fee, and that will be the one place central that you will be able to go for music, and it will be locked out to you unless you are paying for that service.
I'm glad you told me that, because something in my innate always, if I have another option, I won't listen to it through that.
Yeah, me too. But,
Totally.
I love Prince, unfortunately.
I do too. No, don't get me wrong. If it's my only option to hear a song, I won't even think twice, right? But I just get that impression because of the way the page looks and the title and
all the videos they throw at you, if you really sit and watch what they suggest, you will be puking.
yeah, I haven't got into it that far, but I believe you. I bet it's like that too.
It's a
It's
dark
everything.
place made of lollipops and sugar canes, but you know, sugar can be a demon.
It is, yes, it definitely can be, and yeah, exactly. And then you see that, and they're so, I don't know, they're so on target about putting that name out there like that. It's like, okay, when you're looking for a song and you see see them all pop up, and you see that title there with it,
That little
it's like
pink.
it's in bigger letters than the damn song you're looking for.
Yeah, it's got that pink little flag on it. I would like to do a shout out to one of my YouTube. I like this guy a lot. His name is the 13th Son, and he's like 13 love, 13 wisdom, 13 knowledge, what a bee's like. And he has helped me with my diet. He has helped me understand on different layers what sugar and other negative stuff we put in our body, processed food, does to us spiritually. And he's like, it causes parasites. And that like freaked me out so much. I've been eating so much better since I've heard him speak.
Yeah, is he? That's not with the 13 cosmic laws of astrology, is it?
I think that's another channel of his.
Yeah, I wonder if it is. Is his name Lord Okiosaya?
I don't know that.
Okay. It sounds familiar. I think I've seen the guy you're talking about, though, a couple times.
Black
I
guy.
think, yeah, exactly. And I think he's posted a few times, or somebody's posted his stuff to the groups. And yeah,
I
I
do.
really vibe with what he has to say, too. I really vibe with him. I get a good feeling from him. I can't think of what I've heard him say, but I know that when I've heard him a couple of times, it's really, it vibes with me, and it's the reality of it. And then I haven't seen it a lot, so,
Well,
but
mostly
yeah.
what he's doing is channeling his ancestors and giving advice from the ancestors. And he says that we'll never know exactly who he is or where he's from, and that doesn't mean physically. It means, I'm out there, babe. And, he does have a language that gets into your head. Instead of saying, I understand, he says, do you understand that inner? Do you understand? His voice, his wordplay is high art, actually. It's high art. And it sticks with you, and it teaches you, and it's almost as if he is walking with you, if you really get into it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And either you can vibe with it, or some people might hear it and they might be turned off right away, but that's just a
Not
condition.
everything he says is love and light. And, and then he's got this thing where he's a little hooked up with if you've got melanin in your skin or not, and DNA stuff, and these physical things that I never look at or concern myself with.
Right. There you go. Exactly. But still, I could take what I did vibe with him on and listen
Yeah.
to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. Take what I want out of a situation. It's like some people will go, oh, all these channelers, they're just full of a bunch of bullshit. Well, some are, some aren't, but I really don't care, because I like listening to it and figuring it out for myself, I like discerning for myself. They may say something that I really vibe with and like, and then in the
Yeah,
next
and it's
breath,
a
if they tell me to
practice
go
in
do
your intuition and getting in touch with your own feeling and saying, oh, does that resonate or not? And that's like saying, I think I like strawberries, but I eat them so fast, I've never really experienced a strawberry,
yeah, I don't know. And maybe if my idol told me they were good, I'd really love them. Or if they told me they weren't very good, I wouldn't like them. I know. And on the same breath, if I heard something I really resonated with, and on the next breath they told me to go jump off a bridge or to go, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna do that either. It's like, I think that people don't give the human race enough credit, but at the same time, we're our own worst enemy, with some things.
I think that willful ignorance, that trying to be safe, and it's like, if there's a war in heaven and you don't take sides, dude, you've got to take a side.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Let's we should continue to war with each other. That's a good one. Yeah. But this is such a big deal that there are soldiers with there are light workers and there are light warriors. There's people on all sides of this that have different roles to play. and different intricacies that play into it. And nothing is just that it is or it isn't. It's always a million shades in between. And so take what you resonate with. Hey, if it resonates with you, you know what? Go with it. If it don't, fuck it. You know? I mean, one part of the book may say 2 + 2 is 4. Okay, we know that. And then you turn the next page and it says 4 + 3 is 9. And that's not true. But it doesn't make the fact that 2 + 2 wasn't 4.
And that goes back to being self-referenced and having a solid selfness to understand from. My Mercury in astrology, my brain, the way I think, is in the sign of Pisces. So it's very hard for me to differentiate what is reality and what is perceived reality. I don't understand the difference. It's all the same to me. So
it is all the same. It's just all that it is. It's obviously, you know what, it is and it isn't, and it is and it is, and it's all points in between, and everything that you could ever think of or imagine is true in an endless parallel universe of possibilities, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't have come into your focus or onto your radar. I mean, so you got to look at it like that, and people get hung up real easy in a scenario, and, well, is this true? Is this not? Is this, well, what does that mean? What did this mean? You got to understand that everything is an innate possibility. Try not to have judgment, but at the same time have your bullshit detector on high, because you know that anything's a possibility. If you meet somebody for the first time, right, you should know that that person could be Mother Teresa, or they could be Adolf Hitler, they could be Gandhi, or they could be Joseph Stalin. You know what I mean? And change. And if you think everything through in every now moment without judgment, you'll be fine. You know what I mean? You realize in that now moment what you know, but at the same time, it shouldn't shock you if shit goes south.
Remember that, and so the next time you meet that person, you act accordingly.
There you go, until they give you until something changes, and then the next time you act accordingly to how it was. Do you know what I mean? And then you keep in mind that it could have been for a reason or whatever, but if you have no judgment but yet a good bullshit detector, you understand that already. You know that they could say, it's a sunny day out, and that's to be true. And then on the other hand, they could say, well, everybody should die, and that's not true, and you're not going to agree with it. So if you think every single now moment you're in through, a person should be fine. And that doesn't mean you have to sit there and future trip all the time. It just means in every little scenario that you're in, that you're living in that moment, go with your gut and be done with it.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how many friends you have, how many people approve of you, which is a lot of people, they just want to make friends and be social, to be approved of, to be mirrored and said, oh, you're safe, and yeah, you're not normal, none of us are, and that kind of camaraderie. But that camaraderie is very shallow compared to the relationship you have with yourself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've got to be your own best friend. You've got to love yourself. And it's so hard for us to want to do sometimes because we don't give ourselves permission, because we think, well, we're going to get stuck in ego, and how could I actually do that? But it's not about that. It's about being full of that. And you can only truly give yourself to other people when you do start to really love yourself and say, hey, I'm okay. I can take care of, I need to take care of what I need to take care of, and I'm not a bad person.
Yeah, you've got to wake up in your own skin every single day, over and over and over again. So you better get close with yourself.
Yeah, really, because you really, at the end of the day, in that midnight hour when you're alone or whatever, all you have is you, and all there is you, because we really are all one. But when you're coming at it from that mindset, it is within you. If you want to make the whole as a collective, which we are all one, you've got to take care of that one that is you, that in this 3D world that you have that control over.
And I think it's a duty that we have the higher consciousness, that we are taking care of what I call the animal body. This is an animal, this is a creature, a beautiful design of God, and it's living and breathing and actual, and it gets hurt and it has trauma and all kinds of things, and it's our temple and it's our skin suit and all of those things. But what a privilege to have this flesh. What a beautiful gift.
That's one way to look at it. Yes, that's a way to look at it. You know, I could do without some of the ascension pains and a little arthritis, but you know, when you look at it above that, you're right, totally.
I think it's a rare and unique thing to manifest in 3D. Nothing I want to do again, but there it is.
It was a fun one-time experience to learn, and it sure makes you appreciate what's after that, definitely. But yeah, it's rare.
You had to ride that roller coaster. Of all the roller coasters at the park, you had to ride that one.
Of all the roller coaster joints in the city, you had to walk into that one and take the ride, kid. Yeah, exactly. And it's like I had a dream one time that when I was incarnating here, I felt the feeling of my light body coming into this dense physical body that I have. It's like all of a sudden I felt like heavy, and like I felt, you know, I felt like this body thick around me, and then I felt like all this waste go through me. I felt like I was just into this body now, and there was that feeling of being weighed down and dense.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's hard to explain. It was really weird.
I think you did a lovely job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, really, it is just like the relief. I think some of us feel like we want to get out of this, and sometimes I have these thoughts when I'm having really bad ascension pains of, God, I would like my light body just to fly out of here right now.
Well, you know, I have 2 slip discs in the bottom of my spine, as low as they could possibly be. And I call it my Kundalini blowout. I really feel like I got too much electricity, and it just kind of shot out the side, even in a physical way. So, and I've heard so many light workers or whatever complain about these things.
That bottom spine disc sometimes, yeah, like the one right above, not to be graphic, but the one right above your ass crack, you know, it feels like that sometimes like got a knife in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, and it's like you try to pop it, and it's like, that's a good way to put it, a Kundalini blowout. I mean, that to me, yeah, exactly. It's like a knife and a knot right there.
Yeah. You might want to get checked.
Yeah. I mean, I've already had one back surgery, but, you know, the thing is, yeah, it doesn't happen to me a lot, that feeling, but when I'm having really bad ascension symptoms, that hurts there.
Yeah, and our nervous system, we need to learn how to eat to nourish our nervous system, because we are using a lot more nourishment than regular humans.
Yes. Yes, we are.
And the 13th son, he tells you to eat fruit. It's your spiritual armor. So fruit is your spiritual armor.
Organic fruit, not shit bought at Walmart that is trucked from the West Coast back east and brought back out west, like they do here, and sold. And it's like almost if you buy it in the grocery store now, a frozen pizza in a spray painted apple, there's no taste left. It almost tastes like the same damn thing.
Well, I get you, and I understand that some of us are poor, and we just need to bless our food, bless our fridge, bless our water river that we go swimming in.
Bless our water.
Just try to, you know, trust in God. And the worst thing that can happen is you die, and you know, that's the best thing that can happen.
No, it really is in a way, and that does work, especially, you know, having that knowledge. Just bless the food and do with it what you can do with it. You're right. Exactly, but what I'm saying is something grown organically, you can sure taste the flavor in it.
Yeah, but the price difference is totally insane, and they've already put this on the floor. I don't know if you know, but they have cut food stamps by $8 billion.
Oh, totally. But they have just fucked everybody on it, and they definitely do. And I've said this for years. They do make it hard to eat healthy. They make it completely hard to go shopping and eat healthy. They make it hard. They don't only make it expensive. They make it inconvenient as hell. Completely.
Yeah. I like Psyche Truth, her diet videos and her food videos. Corinne Rachel on YouTube. She really goes into why you don't eat this and why you do eat that. The addiction of food and how these processed foods are designed to addict you.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then
And,
the
when I
ironic
could
thing,
see people in
oh,
the lines for McDonald's and Burger King, because we have a lot of those right around here where I'm at, and there's
mhm.
like long, long lines. And I'm like, man, the people at the mental ward are going to get their lunch tray. And it's just like having this institutionalized lunch. I can't cook for myself, so I'm just going to go through the system. And then they're
Pure
feeding the body,
calories.
that junk.
Yeah, pure empty calories, and then you're hungry again after you get a gut ache and all those empty calories. Then a couple hours later, you're hungry because there was no nutrition in what you just had, the plastic you just ate.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we're always seeing those lovely but skinny Ethiopians that are starving. Well, Americans are fat and starving at the same time.
I know that's a good point. Nobody's ever brought up because of and that ties into what I'm saying about the nutrition. We are fucking fat as a motherfucker, and yet we're hungry. We're
Yeah,
starving here, and we're fatter than. Why is that? Even people, it is because what we're getting is complete fat, but it's not never. It's never enough. Even if we have the money to spend a bunch of money on food like that, it's still never enough with the shit that we eat.
I've lost over 50 pounds doing Kevin Trudeau's weight loss cure, the HCG. But not only that, it is a
Yeah.
cure because I haven't gone, I haven't gained. I lose. And as I learn to eat better, I lose. You don't have to do the diet after a while. You just learn. So it's like a big learning curve. Like it makes you lose about a pound a day. And you do that for 20 or 30 days. And by then you're like motivated to totally eat right. And it's just a jump start. And that really helped me. But I've learned so much about nutrition and food and how important the body is because I've been a psychic for over 20 years. I've been in the ether most of my life. So to come back into the body and to say, oh my gosh, I got a physical temple, and to really realize that again and to start treating it that way, it's a form of self-love.
It is. That sounds about right, though, to be able to just do it like a pound a day, and at the same time you're educating yourself, and before you know it, you've got that down. I think it's such a mental head game to think about having to start doing something like that, but if you just take it now, moment by now, moment, day by day, it'd probably be the way to go. And of
I would
course, our
never
bodies are great.
if it wasn't for my mom. She was the one who brought it to me. And if it wasn't coming from such a close source, I would have said, oh, that's stupid and that's bunk.
Yeah, exactly. I don't. I became a vegetarian, and not because I had to work at it right. My body just quit liking shit like that. And I'm not a vegan yet, but I see the writing on the wall like I could be going that direction. And no judgment. It's all on when our bodies are ready to do it.
I agree.
And to
I've
be
been
conscious
struggling
of it.
with the meat. I see. I had a guru. She's passed now into the realms of light. But when I was with her, she had to eat meat once a month to remain in her body. So even she called it
Okay.
unhappy food, but it lowered her vibration so that she could stay here. And when I need to ground like in a hot minute because I'm not going to come back if I don't, a piece of steak is what
Mm-hmm.
does it for me.
See, and you know that and know your body needs that. And I think people should trust in their body, and what works for some people may not work for others. And people will get sometimes, not so much anymore on this kick where they judge somebody else or whatever. Well, only your own body knows. It'd be like me sitting there and bragging that, oh, gee, I'm a vegetarian now. Boy, I quit eating meat. Well, I did it because my body wanted to, and I wanted to, for Christ's sake. If it was a situation where I was forced to have to, it wouldn't have happened that easy, and probably not even at all. Okay,
Well,
I
I think
mean,
the stigma is going away that if you change your diet, you're a judgy person. There's too many vegetarians out there now. And, the raw is now. And being a breatharian, ooh, there's always another frontier.
well, there is, and these are all, but see, and these are all where humanity is going when we eventually be in our light body, right? But
Yeah.
people need to be careful not to judge, though, when they get in that position and make and sound like they're better because they're doing one thing, and somebody else is doing another.
Yeah, Gosh, the Life Regenerator on YouTube. He never talks down to you. He's always like, you can do it. He's very encouraging. He's a juicer.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
that's the way to go. I
Yeah.
mean, I really truly believe if you organically juiced all the time, I wish I could do it and did. I mean, you would have so much energy because you're getting all the nutrients out of it, and you're getting a pure shot of those nutrients and not it cooked and not eating all the other stuff along with it. And
Yeah, I
no,
just
it's true.
naked juice that I found out was made of a Pepsi. Naked juice, the green machine, the raw, is supposed to be so good for you. Drink you can pick up at the convenient institutional situation, back to the cafeteria.
7-Eleven.
That stuff has formaldehyde in it. They just settled for over $2 million for wrong marketing, wrong advertising. It has about a tablespoon or two of real stuff, and the rest is not even just, it's not juice, it's chemicals. And it's like it was once juice at one point in history, but then it went through this scientific crazy processing situation to where all the light has been stripped out of it. And so you get all the calories and none of the gain, none of the protection from the fruit. And why are they still selling it? If they settled in court, then why is it still on the market?
Well, because probably there's been a lot of things like that over the years. Most juices you've ever bought in a store are really 10% juice when you look at the label. And you look at Mountain Dew. I mean, Mountain Dew is like radiator fluid. I mean, Coca-Cola has always been able to clean battery acid off of a battery. So these things, this is not something that's new. I
I
mean, these
saw
are things.
the Russian life hacker on YouTube, or Russian hacker. He boiled some Coke, and it became this icky, sticky black sugar goo. And he said all of that, which was most of it, is sugar. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, no wonder it cleans a battery car or car battery, you know what I mean? I mean, think about what that's doing to your inside. You're getting cleaned out all right.
I mean,
You're,
I people that go to yoga and drink Diet Coke, I'm like, wait, one of these things does not go together.
oh, yeah, I know the stereotype, too, of ordering a Big Mac meal supersized, but give me a Diet Coke.
Yeah.
I know, it's like a psychological thing. They figure that if they have that shitty tasting aftertaste diet drink, that'll be okay. That'll balance out the 3 days worth of
Formaldehyde in
calories.
the burger. Yeah, sure.
It'll balance out the 3 days of calories you're
Oliver has
getting.
done a lot of mainstream stuff. You know that Jamie Oliver guy? He's been on TV that you don't watch.
Yeah. He's been on Food Network. He's been around a long time. Yeah, I've seen him before. Yeah, he's had a show on Food Network back in the day, and
So bless
you
his
know,
heart. He's doing some good work. He's trying to educate the more mundane.
yes, and he's doing his role. I don't, not that I watch TV, but I don't hear about him much anymore in the mainstream. Like, I mean, I don't think he's probably not on Food Network anymore.
No,
I
but
mean,
he's involved in a lot of products. Maybe products. Okay. Anyway, he's pushing a lot of stuff.
right, that he's probably happened to do without, a corporate backing like a Food Network or whatever. He's probably too healthy for them now.
Well, once
Maybe he
you win these ladies' hearts, which he does, and that's the demographic that every media hound is always after. You should know that, knowing your past media experience. When you grab those women, you have them for life. I mean, look at Oprah. It's the housewife. She's the one.
Oh, Oprah, totally.
Well, I'm saying
Totally.
the housewife is the demographic that changes the world. And I think the Dalai Lama also said something similar.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And then for what purpose do you use it for, It's like...
Well, it's not going to be up to us because we're raising a vibration, so it's none of that duality consciousness. It doesn't anymore. We're breaking that chessboard, Masons. It's just not going to be around.
It's not, so real is going to be real, when you see somebody that's like that, it's for real reasons. It's not for, I think that is part of the duality mindset, too, to be caught into well, it's for a hidden agenda. What do they really mean? What's the ulterior motive? Well, whatever, what you see is what you get.
Well, you know who confuses me, I think, most in the media is Mr. Russell Brand. Here he is with his tattoos of his chakras and his Ganesh on his stage and his guru, who I've seen several times with him. And, of course, he's always getting pictures taken in the ceremonies. But he is an practicing sex addict. What is up with that?
I don't know. Maybe that's what I have no idea. I know who he is. I've seen some of his stuff, but a practicing sex addict. Well, I would want to know, well, the people that he's practicing with, are they being manipulated, or are they accepting of it too? And is that something they want to do?
I would assume they're accepting of it. I would really assume that. I don't really get the vibe that he would ever prey on someone at all. But he's all about it's cosmic, and I'm like, no, it's sex addiction. But his message, what the things he actually says, not what he does, but what he says are very enlightening and good points. And he's, starting protests in England. He did that this week. So
what's wrong with loving other human bodies, though, if it's consensual and there's no manipulation? If he's with, I don't know.
It is a clear addiction.
Okay, well, it could be. It could be. I mean, I can't make a judgment on him because I have not seen and I don't know to be able to give a feel or a take one way or the other.
Well, he's named Shagger of the Year twice. I did not know there was an award for shagging, but apparently in England there is.
Yeah, I get you on that. That's kind of like, okay. Yeah, I mean,
if he's with the woman in the same room during an interview, there's at least some flirting going on. It's kind of like it's that vibe. It's totally there. And I understand that you haven't experienced it yourself, but a lot of people should know what I'm talking about. But he does have a very clear voice of revolution, of change, and, he's actually in the media. People actually listen to him. So I like him. I like his message, but I'm a little put off by his lifestyle.
I get it, and I think maybe I don't know. I'm going on a limb. Are you put off by kind of the way he conducts himself? Like, because to me, it's like if he was that way and it was out of sight, out of mind, whatever, no judgment. But it's the little nuances of how he does that, like the, acting like a idiot, flirting around like that. And it's not like somebody would flirt with their wife or whatever, or one person. It's just kind of like he's doing it he wants everybody to know that he's doing that, and it's like, why? What's the point of him doing that in an interview?
Because
I'll have to
get laid later with the interviewer. That's the point.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to. Yeah, you got my curiosity. I think I get what you mean totally. He's letting on to it like that. He's not keeping it to himself, and because bottom line is nobody wants to see that shit. I mean, and what is his agenda by trying to show that?
Yeah, and because it brings up in the 70s and the 60s what I think kind of killed the hippie revolution from their end, not from the cabal end, but from the hippies' end, is that free sex stuff. If they had not gotten so entrapped in the flesh, then they would have seen beyond that the light that is in all of us. But it had to be about physical sex. But we are past that now.
We are. I was just talking about this earlier today in my Twin Flame group, and it's a subject I don't even like talking about, but through consciousness I made this group. The Pleiadians wanted me to, but we're getting past that and understanding the light, the pure love for one another. It's not about just a quick, cheap thrill, fuck everybody in your path.
What is literally and mentally. Wouldn't you get sick of that if it was sex all day long? How is that fulfilling any need?
It's not either. It's not, because I'm even above that. I don't even care. That's just like
free-pacing, isn't it? It's like I'm gonna have an orgasm so that I can talk to God for 2 seconds. It's drug use.
It is. It really is, because to me, when you're having that kind of spiritual experience with somebody that you're into, right? If anything, having that, you want to prolong that moment for as long as you can and enjoy the bonding process of it.
Right. And
because once you have God, 2 second, it's, well, I mean, It's like 55 seconds of fame. It was over before you knew it.
And it's false. I mean, it's just a quickie, and it's not based on anything real.
Well, that's true. No, that is definitely true. And I think that we're kind of moving away from that, though. I see that we're kind of now, we're kind of in a cultural evolution, sexual revolution, the starseeds are, and it's not like the same way that the hippies were like that with no, this is a pure loving for humanity, and people are above.
I never see starseeds hitting on each other.
No, they don't, but at the same time, we're all flirtatious and understanding and knowing, because it's like,
as
I
brothers
wouldn't say
and sisters, I hope. I mean, that's how I've always been treated.
You know what, that's mainly, it's like that, right? It's like that, yeah. It's like that. It's on a spiritual level. It's really hard to put into there's no way to put it into 3D words. But it's a non-judgmental, just an all loving each other thing without the first thing on your mind is a quickie. It's just it's more like loving for all humanity.
That's why we say namaste. The God in me recognizes the God in you. And it's family. It's instant family. It's awesome.
It pretty much is. I know that. That's exactly it. I mean, it is family. And you hear that term family your whole life, but it really is family. It's people. It's other incarnees, which there's 50 to 100,000 of us, at least 20,000 of them I've met at least a couple times in these groups and talked to, and same story, same thing, and we're all like starting to vibe towards this one collective with not a brain, not a guru type of collective where somebody's controlling us. We are our own gurus.
Heck yeah.
And we're all moving towards that path together to be a collective. Everybody's a leader and a follower. We're both and interchangeable, and humble enough to realize when somebody else needs to step in and make the decision, and step up when we need to make the decision, and there's no egos about it. I mean, there's getting to the point where it's very rare, the egos,
I've been out of the loop for a while as far as group participation goes, except for just, the groups, the Facebook groups. So I haven't heard much of the drama. And, I don't know much about Ashtar Command or those groups either.
You don't need to.
Okay.
Really, because innately what all that is all that is. There's no real reason to get hung up on that, because think about this: if the Ashtar Command didn't have a name, right? If it was just if it was called that thing, it was called that thing. I mean, you wouldn't. There's no reason to know anything about it until and if the time came where there was a reason for you to know, you would.
Oh,
but
totally.
then, if somebody's there's a lot of people into it, and I think it's cool because it's their specialty. They're looking into it. They vibe with and resonate with that, and I think that's great.
Well, I think it's very interesting because I don't get to see that level of reality in my visions. I don't get to see war on Mars Hermes showed me what happened to Atlantis, but I wasn't there. But he's like, here, you want to see? And so he showed me. It was a float over. It wasn't, I was there and I lived there. I don't think it was from Atlantis, for real.
No. Yeah, I was there, but it wasn't from here. It was just here on a mission to help out, and I think a lot of us were here to do that, to help out, and it kind of failed because it just didn't happen for us at that time. We just didn't save the day. It didn't happen for us for a lot of reasons, and hence we're here. And hence, are we here from the past, or are we here from the future, coming back into time to save something similar to Atlantis on a parallel reality? And I think it's both. These are all different timelines.
Yeah. What history, what period was Atlantis compared to the Hindu, the yugas, I wonder? Because I could put it intellectually for myself better if I understood it as a yuga.
There's been supposedly, some people say, 3 incarnations of Atlantis, and probably more than that. Atlantis could be the society that ran the earth, but the way I understand it, and from my dreams and all the research I've done and what vibes with me, is Atlantis was 13,000 years ago, maybe as many as 26,000 years ago, and Lemuria was another continent. That's you had Atlantis stretching from the east coast of the United States clear over to Europe, down to Antarctica, most of the U.S. at the time. Besides the east coast was all islands, but then you got to the west coast, and about where British Columbia is, Washington, Oregon, and the last third of California, the top third before that state curves over, was like the east coastline of Lemuria, which stretched through Hawaii into the Australian outback, clear to the Australian outback to the Pacific, with Hawaii being the only snow-capped mountains at the time. It was mountains of what was Lemuria then. And you look at the outback, that outback was nuked by Atlantis, and that's why still to this day, the radiation, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason why there's an outback. It's lush green coast in Australia, plus the Pacific is lush and green. There's no rhyme or reason for it. And then over this way coming west, you've got Antarctica in the southeast. I mean, in the south, well, I guess it would be the west of what Atlantis was, but our eastern part now. You got Atlantis, which is Antarctica, which is an ice age. So it could be Atlantis, nuked, set it off. They nuked Lemuria over there at that end, nuked the hell out of where the outback is now, and retaliation was done, and Antarctica turned into an ice age. I mean, these are just possible theories and scenarios, and things that I had thought of, and then I'd heard other people say the same, and it resonates with me. So it's not nothing for sure. For sure, it's the only way you can justify the outback being it is. I mean,
I wonder what the indigenous aborigines have to say about that.
Yeah, I'd be curious, because you don't hear a lot. I'd be curious to know, and even though they know and are from there, I might even be tend to argue with them if they think that the outback was anything other than a high-tech nuclear war with 3 times the weaponry the U.S. possesses now as far as technology, because, well, then what? Okay, so then the outback could have been a crater hitting it, possible something cataclysm hit it.
The language you would expect. They would have analogies and pictures, and they would
exactly. And I'd love to see it. That's a good point. I don't know. I've never ran across any of it. But I mean, that might be a good idea for me to check. I just always assumed. Now just for curiosity, I guess I could check. But I just always assumed it's something like that, because there's no 3D rhyme or reason on Earth that it's that way. Like I said, it's the most barren, nuked out, dead area on Earth just about, but yet the whole coastline of Australia is green. Okay, so fine. And then the Pacific typically is too on the islands, and I don't give a shit if it was the Sahara Desert. It still isn't as bad. The outback is like radiation central, and it's just got, something happened there. Something happened to it. I mean, even if somebody didn't believe that, I mean, use your fucking head. The rest of the whole coastline surrounding Australia is lush green because they're in the Pacific. The islands are. And even if they weren't, something that extreme, that big, a barren land, I don't think so. I mean, that's what
that David Icke went to the Dogon tribe when he wanted to know about the reptilians. So you go to the indigenous people because they would be the ones who knew.
Yes, probably would. They're more in touch with the history of this planet, more in touch with the cosmos and the Earth itself. Yeah, and the Dogons, big affiliation with the Sirians, so right. I'm sure. And I mean, and I don't know that David Icke. He's I like his shit. I used to listen to him in the '90s sometimes, like on Coast to Coast before, and he predicted a lot of shit that happened. I mean, he basically predicted 9/11 was going to be coming down the pike. So I don't know. He's just a man putting his words out there too, but he's a part of this puzzle.
I really resonate with his spiritual awakening. My
God, what happened to him? He tells the tale of what happened to me, of him having that awakening, right? The thing with his son, and then the people mocking him forever because he was so excited. I'll tell you what, there's one person that if you ever want to know how mine went down, how it all went down for me with family, friends, and everything, and the overexcitement, David Icke. Listen to how David Icke explains what happened to him. Yeah. And that's what happened to me. Yeah. And the aftermath that ensued, and what I thought, and what I was mocked. I mean, David Icke is telling my story basically at that beginning of those first couple of years.
It's beautiful.
It is. He is, and it's like it really hits home. It hits home more than you know.
He's on a mission from God.
He could be called a modern. You know what? And it's probably true. If David Icke is, well, as up and up as anybody can be on Earth, if it's true,
I'm sorry?
David Icke could be labeled a modern day prophet.
Well, sure,
Really,
but there's so many of us.
there is now. There is
Like
now.
West
It
Panic.
came from that
He's
era though. When he came out in the late '80s, early '90s, and through the '90s, there wasn't a lot. You had Barbara Marciniak. Yeah, she was starting to get them then, but you could name them in a hand or two at the most back then. Now it's all these different people in all these groups now that know more than any of those people do.
yeah.
You
It's
know?
so, yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, so I
But
respect that white man for putting up with that stuff.
oh God. I mean, totally, exactly. And just the way people were so ignorant to him and mocking him and laughing, and it's like that kind of makes me mad.
Yeah,
Because,
it's a classic story. I'm so glad we have it in our modern mythology now.
yep, we do. And it's funny now, so many people are fans of his that mocked him when he first came on this show in 1991 in England. He came on a talk show, and the people were just laughing at him. And I mean, I really resonated with what he had to say. And even if he was talking a bunch of bullshit, it doesn't matter. The audience was rude as a motherfucker to him.
Right, they really were. That's what they
Really
do. They
shit.
capture stones out of fear.
But I've never resonated with that kind of mentality. I understand why, but even at 4 or 5 years old, it would irritate me to hear people mocking that. It's sickening.
Yeah, anyone with compassion would turn on the audience and say, "What's wrong with the audience?"
What the fuck is wrong with the audience? I don't give a shit if you had Stalin up there talking. Almost. I mean, the audience is.
John Lennon. It's such a great thing that we have these old interviews.
Oh, I love watching them. Yeah. Yeah. You know, there was one Frank Zappa did even.
Yeah.
With these.
Big Cabot. He had all of them.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to see the true pioneers, of our time.
Yeah.
It really is.
The aliens before us.
The aliens, the first wave, the second wave, the wave, the pioneers,
the rainbows, the diamonds, all of our lucky charms.
The Blu-rays, yeah, they're magically delicious. Oh wait, that's frosted. Yeah. Look, I don't know. Yes, they were magically delicious in the mind, but yeah, for sure. So. Exactly. Well, I think we've covered some good ground here. I think, oh boy, I think we would have covered a whole coast-to-coast 4-hour show here if we had commercials thrown in. Look, I really want to thank you for coming on. It was really great and really interesting that we met, and we're going to have to do this again. I enjoyed
how casual it was.
I do too, and I want to have you back on again, and maybe we can. Maybe at some point we can even interview somebody together. I say interview. I don't like using cliches, but these discussions, I'm trying to keep it
inwardly into them. We are interviewing them. That's good.
We are interviewing them. Yes, they are on the hot seat. Yes, anyway. So I really feel like it's
brains.
Yeah, I loved picking your brain today. It was great. Thank you so much, very much. It's been a good show, and I think that's gonna about wrap it up. Did you have anything else any wisdom you'd like to share with the people before we?
I guess the biggest message that we should all get is just hang in there, folks. Hang in there. But also, I would like to express my gratitude to you. Thank you for taking a chance on a veritable stranger and just throwing me on the air like this. I really appreciate it.
Are you kidding me? You carried the show. You were great, girl. You carried the show. You were great. And one thing I always ask people before they leave is, if anybody out there hearing this or that hears this in the future wants to get in contact with you or know more about you, where can they find you on the internet or Facebook?
Facebook, Korinne Wilson. I go by occult priestess. If you Google that, you will see me and all of my myriad of designs. OCCULTPRIESTESS, Gmail, and all that good stuff.
And all that good stuff. And of course, I could tell everybody where they could find me, but I'm all over Facebook and all the Pleiadian regional groups, Leah Shapiro's Pleiadians group, the Fringe Thinkers, Pleiadian Light Grid Project, Pleiadians Disco Page, Pleiadians Woodstock, and everywhere and all points in between in the universe, everywhere but nowhere at all in this great vastness of the galaxy. And that's been a wrap. I want to thank everybody for listening to Pleiadian Talk today. Much love, peace, namaste, and God, Creator, Speed. Much love, and that's a wrap.